Tech Factors, an e-learning company focused on making classroom experiences fun and fruitful by integrating technology in the lessons. We take pride in being the leading and preferred e-learning provider in the country, with a mission to develop world-class graduates equipped with 21st century skills. As to date, we have served hundreds of schools and thousands of students nationwide. Tech Factors offers different courseware for grade school and high school students. English Tech and Filipino Tech for language arts, Math Tech for math education, AP Tech for social studies, Science Tech for science education, DG Titans, and Tech High for ICT education, Mundi Tech for music, arts, physical education, and health, and Life Tech for home economics and livelihood education. We also offer a number of titles for our senior high series. And all of these can be accessed by teachers and students through TechTeach LMS, our very own learning management system. TechTeach LMS is a distance learning platform that uses technology to conduct classes. It provides seamless classroom experience and allows smooth navigation through an improved interface. With TechTeach, students can access their lessons, including video lectures, interactives, and exams that their teachers may assign. TechTeach adapts to your learning needs and styles. Since digital natives are more inclined into audio and visual content, we converted some of the lessons into video lectures that you can pause, play, and rewind at your own pace. This facilitates better knowledge retention. Furthermore, you can have fun while learning through the interactive exercises. With the latest innovation from Tech Factors, TechTeach can now be accessed using mobile devices such as cell phones and tablets. Not only that, in TechTeach LMS version 2, students can now download content such as lessons, video lectures, and quizzes for offline use. Tech Factors Incorporated aims to develop students to become lifelong learners using fun and innovative ways. Enroll now, and together, let's make learning a great experience.
Through the years, we have been your partner in innovative teaching and effective learning. Our teaching and learning resources and the professional development programs for teachers and school leaders that we provide speak of the Alaga that you deserve as our collaborative partners. Now, more than ever, we commit to Alagang Phoenix CEAPs, the cornerstone of our mission in education. We vow to guide and support you in navigating uncertain paths in education today by providing holistic solutions that support instructional resiliency. With our MELC-compliant print and digital resources and tools, we help you future-proof quality instruction. These resources include high-quality textbooks designed for meaningful home-based learning. These are replete with learning activities that form self-directed learners and authentic learning tasks that allow learners to meaningfully connect them to real-world contexts. The My Distance Learning Buddy series is a modular textbook series for the 21st century learner in the new normal. MELC compliant, this learning package consists of 6 subjects. Complementing and supplementing these printed materials are various resources that enrich learning, curated in the Phoenix Blended Resources portal. Moreover, the World Book eBooks is a digital library that serves various instructional purposes. For technology-powered learning, Phoenix Aralinks is your holistic edtech solution, responding to the new realities in education. It is more than a learning management system. Run by the biggest edtech team in the country, it is a comprehensive program that focuses on pedagogy, not on tools and devices. Moreover, the Aralinks Pro Track automates school operations and systems and bridges communication between the school, students, and parents. Helping schools make sound and informed decisions to improve student learning, GRACE offers various quality standards-based assessments using modern approaches in the test development process and scientific methodologies. Grace commits to advancing the standards in research and assessment. At Phoenix CEAP, we arm you with holistic and meaningful resources for innovative teaching and effective distance learning. At Phoenix CEAP, we help you get ready for the next in Philippine education.
Technology is now a vital part of everyday life. Schools are faced with the key challenge of keeping pace with all these developments. They must undergo digital transformation and digitize their workflows and processes to deliver better value to their stakeholders. We are Edgeline Technologies, and we deliver smart solutions. We can help you manage your school's digital transformation through our products and services. Each component of the Edgeline ecosystem is designed to digitize your school's processes. Our ICT and robotics learning programs integrate technology education with the K-12 curriculum. Through these programs, students develop computational thinking skills and become responsible creators and users of technology. The Savvy Learning Management System enables e-learning for your school. Connect with students and teach subjects remotely as we all adjust to the new normal of learning. Our EVE School Management System digitizes various administrative workloads including admission, enrollment, scheduling, and financials. The EduCast messaging system connects schools to parents, keeping them updated with important announcements and reminders concerning their children's education. SIMS delivers smart ID and attendance monitoring that tracks student mobility to and from your facilities, broadcast announcements through digital displays and signages. Our BUY Building and Infrastructure service provides you with the essential equipment, networks, and infrastructure to boost your capabilities. We are committed to designing sensible and sustainable solutions that empower your school. So, are you ready for your digital transformation? EduLearn.
With CEAP Publishing Incorporated, we assure you as our partners to be there throughout the journey. We are with you in every step of the way. Technology is continuously evolving, and CEAP is riding with it. From print to digital, CEAP's got you covered with the products that we offer. Spearheading CEAP's products are the CEAPlets, an e-learning portal for teachers only, and the Leveraging Education, Augmenting the Future, or LEAF, for student-teacher access. For teachers, administrators, and school owners, we have the CEAP's Shares. It is perfect for you in maneuvering fast-paced demands of the education field as we collaborate in creating a balanced amalgam of theories, pedagogies, and practices inside and outside of the realm of the learning environments. Reimagine, reinforce, recognize, to make quality education through a variety of lectures, trainings, and webinars in aid of instruction, classroom management, and institution management. These offerings are perfect responses. In connection to CEAP Shares, to provide service beyond sales, CEAP also has the CEAP Cares for its partner mission schools in providing them with capacity building focused branding or rebranding the institution inside and out. It also practices reimagining various school scenarios and responses to the needs of the time, reinforcing school climate and culture through different webinars conducted among institution partners and in recognizing the value of each stakeholder in the success of value-laden instruction delivery. Another product of CEAP is the CEAP Assist. This offering features a 24/7 hotline for technical assistance in the use and maintenance of the CEAPlets and LEAF. Almost everyone in the academe can benefit from this. from the teachers, admins, and school owners to the students and parents. CLEAF's Assists aims to provide an assistance response team to address immediate technical concerns while ensuring the users the full utilization of the CLEAFlets and LEAF. It also offers visits with partners to address offline concerns when needed. We ensure quality service delivered through this hotline assistance to our partners always. And lastly, CLEAF's Thinks. Together with the partners, we provide them with external consultations for present and future research agenda, accreditation certification, and Imaging One. CLEAF's thinks that with a client in full swing, it is redirecting the winds within their institutions. CLEAF's thinks is for teachers, administrators, school owners, students, parents, and even extended service communities and collaborative partner agencies. Through innovative designs, proactive responses, and reconfigured goals, established institutions are on the verge of the fourth going to the fifth industrial revolution. Strong definitive vision is what's needed in remaining relevant and competent in this world. And this is what CLEAF's is all about.
Taon-taon, tuwing dumarating ang pasukan, ang palaging tanong ng nakararami ay, handa ba tayo?
Kakulangan ng silid-aralan sa ilang eskwelahan, sinalubong ng mga estudyante sa unang araw ng pasukan.
Sapat ba ang ating mga pangangailangan para mas makapagbahagi ng kaalaman sa bawat kabataan? Ngunit taon-taon din, sa kabila man ng mga hamon na dumarating, sama-sama natin itong tinutugunan sa abot ng ating kakayanan. Hanggang sa
hati ang opinyon ng nakararami sa pagpapatupad ng distance learning dahil sa mga problema gaya ng mabagal na internet connection at kakulangan ng gadget na maaaring gamitin sa pag-aaral.
Naging usap-usapan yung pag-delay muna ng pasukan hanggang sa susunod na taon kung kailan mas handa ang mga bata, mga magulang, teacher at mga paaralan. Marami man ang tutol sa pagbabalik eskwela, may mga solusyon at paraan na maaari nating gamitin para ituloy ang pagpapalawak ng kaalaman. Sa panahong nailagay sa panganib ang pagpapakalat ng karunungan sa mga kabataan, atin pa ding ginagampanan ang ating pangako para patuloy na itaas ang antas ng ating edukasyon sa panahon man ng pandemya. Ika nga, learning should never stop. Anumang pagsubok, kaya nating lagpasan basta sama-sama.
Nagtatanong, natutuwa, lumalawak ng mundo niya. Masdan mo siya, namamangha, marami nang nagagawa.
Ramdam ko kung gaano kalaki ang effort ng mga guro para lang maibahagi ang nalalaman nila sa mga bata. Doble ang hirap nila sa paghahanda.
Mas nakikita ko ngayon yung paikisa ng mga magulang, yung involvement nila, para maitawid namin ang kaalaman para sa mga bata. Mas tumibay ang partnership namin to make home study work.
Malaking bagay sa akin itong barangay handbook. Mas lalo kong naiintindihan ang pangangailangan ng aking mga nasasakupan. Lalo na ngayon nasa gitna tayo ng isang malawakang krisis. Nakakatulong din ito sa kung paano namin minamanage ang peace and order sa bawat lugar ng aming barangay. Sinisiguro din namin na mabahagi sa bawat barangay tanod at mga volunteer health workers ang aming mga natutunan sa pamamagitan ng mga seminars at counseling.
Since sa ibang bansa nagtatrabaho si Mama at Papa, sinisigurado ko na nasusubaybayan ko ang kapatid ko sa kanyang online classes. Ginagawan ko ng paraan para maturuan siya sa kanyang mga lessons at mga assignment. Mahirap sa umpisa, but I need to step up para sa kinabukasan niya.
Noong panahong nangyari ang pandemya, nahinto ang mga negosyo, nagsipakulong ang mga tao, tumigil ang ating mundo. Kaalaman lamang ang muling magpapabalik nito. Karunungan para muling maibalik ang buhay ng tao.
Sa aming ika-70
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to our 2021 CEAP 6 Virtual Regional Assembly. Before we start our afternoon session, I would like to acknowledge once again our sponsors, Cleefs, Phoenix Sibs, Tech Factors, Rex, and EduLearn. Please take note that we will be posting the link to the evaluation of the assembly tomorrow. After you submit the evaluation, you will receive your certificate of attendance or participation. Now, let us continue with our talk this afternoon. Our first speaker for this afternoon is Attorney Sabino Beling Padilla IV, the Legal Counsel of CEAP. Attorney Padilla earned his law degree from the University of the Philippines, where he was the Chancellor of the Order of the Purple Feather, the UP Law Honor Society. He was also a member of the editorial board of the Philippine Law Journal of the UP College of Law. He also earned his Master's of Laws from Harvard University. Attorney Padilla is a partner at the Padilla Law Office. His law firm is counsel to various corporations, dioceses, and religious congregations, such as the Religious of the Virgin Mary, the Daughters of Charity of St. Vincent de Paul, the Benedictine Sisters, St. Paul de Chartres Sisters, the Augustinian Sisters, the Dominican Sisters, the Holy Spirit Sisters, the Catholic Bishops' Conference of the Philippines, the Canossian Sisters, the Religious of the Assumption, and the FMIC Sisters, among others. With us this afternoon to talk about ensuring regulatory measures on inclusivity and safety of all students in the new normal in education, let us all give a big virtual welcome to Attorney Sabino Padilla IV.
Good afternoon. I hope everyone had a sumptuous lunch, or some of you may still be eating. Please continue. The topic assigned to me today is ensuring regulatory measures on inclusivity and safety of all students in the new normal in education. I want to zero in on three terms: inclusivity, safety, new normal in education. As we all know, we have a pandemic. We've been having lockdown since March of 2020. And so the new normal in education is that our students learn through modular learning, or synchronous or asynchronous online learning. Modular learning involves handouts, visual aids, worksheets, and assessments. Many of our public schools conduct their classes this way. For many of our Catholic schools, we have synchronous or asynchronous lessons. In synchronous classes, we have the traditional in-person classes where students and teachers are in the same physical space, but they are actually in the same virtual space. This allows for virtual real-time interaction. Asynchronous is different in the sense that the students and the teachers are not engaged at the same time as they would in synchronous classes. Typically, the lectures are recorded and students just look at these lectures as need be. So this is the new normal. Has it been good for our students? The overwhelming evidence points to the fact that this has not been helpful to our students. No? And so before we look at the regulatory measures on inclusivity and safety, let's review briefly what international and domestic entities have to say about the new norms in education. In May of 2021, the World Bank submitted a report on the state of Philippine education. Among the key findings, as you will see on your screen, that more than 80% of children do not know what they should know. Among others too, is that there is an unacceptably poor school climate with high levels of bullying. Now, bullying is a matter that really affects the safety of students. And it is a problem that apparently is getting worse. World Bank made key recommendations, among which are the promotion of safe and inclusive learning environments. That is exactly what we are tackling today. Also, the World Bank also said that, among other things, that government should increase education spending and allocate it equitably. Promoting safe and inclusive learning environments means addressing that bullying incidents is taking place at an alarming level. There is a need to campaign for bully-free schools nationwide. After the World Bank came up with its report, the NEDA, our Socio-Economic Planning Secretary, Dr. Carl Chua, came up with his findings on the cost, the total cost of the quarantines to the Philippine society. He estimated the loss at 41.4 trillion net present value in 2020 and 37 trillion for the next 10 to 40 years. The NEDA report also provided the consequences of face-to-face school closure. As you can see, you know this already, PISA scores have gone down. Interestingly, Dr. Chua says the 12 years of expected schooling in the Philippines is equivalent to only 8 years of learning adjusted based on the results of international assessments. And this is likely to fall as a result of the long school closure. ADB says that each year of lost schooling translates to around 10% lower wages in the future. And the pandemic and school closures are exacerbating the already unequal access and lower quality of education in the Philippines. Now, of course, there are also human capital losses. Please note number 2, sources of losses in 2020. The first is private school teachers who lost their jobs as a result of school closures. And parents who forgo or reduce work to accompany their children in homeschooling. So where does this all lead to? There is quite obviously a need to have face-to-face classes as soon as possible and to improve education standards. Unfortunately, this will not happen perhaps within the next year. So how do we promote a safe and inclusive education environment? For this lecture, we will look into 4 groups that perhaps need to be beneficiaries of safe and inclusive policies of schools. The first, of course, are the children. The second are women. The third group would include women and those in the LGBT community because of the new law on safe spaces. And the last group will be the unvaccinated because there has been a lot of tension internationally and even nationally between those who believe in vaccines and those who do not believe in vaccines. So let us go first to children. Now, these regulations concerning children and women, these are all known to you already. But by way of review, this is important because they become more important in this new normal of where we have online learning, because the violence against women and children can be through or maybe in the form of social media platforms and other technological channels. Now, Department Order number 40, series of 2012, this was issued during the time of Brother Armin Luistro. It follows closely the UN Convention on the Protection of Children. Briefly, the order says violence against children committed in school refers to a single act or a series of acts committed by school administrators, etc., which results or it will likely result in physical, sexual, psychological harm or suffering or other abuses. It includes harassment or arbitrary deprivation of liberty. And it includes physical violence, sexual violence, and psychological violence. Now, I have underscored psychological many times because in this new environment of ours, chances are psychological rather than physical violence is what is happening presently. Psychological violence refers to acts or omissions causing or likely to cause mental or emotional suffering of the child, such as, but not limited to, intimidation, harassment, stalking, damage to property, public ridicule, etc., including verbal abuse. Bullying, which we are all familiar with because of the Anti-Bullying Act, refers to willful aggressive behavior that is directed towards a particular victim who may be outnumbered, younger, weaker, etc. It includes, again, stalking, threats, taking of property, public humiliation, deliberate destruction or defacement of a child's property, physical violence committed on a student, which may or may not result in harm or injury, or with or without the aid of a weapon, etc. Cyberbullying, now that is very important in the context of the new normal in education, is basically any act of bullying, but done through electronic means or other technology, such as, but not limited to, texting, email, instant messaging, chatting, internet, social, networking websites, or other platforms or format. Now, you are aware that School heads are mandated to ensure that the school adopts a child protection policy and ensure that all pupils, students, or learners, school personnel, even visitors and guests are made aware of that child protection policy. And they are to conduct capacity building activities on these measures and adopt a strict student code of conduct to be followed by every pupil, student, or learner. I cannot overemphasize the importance of the child protection policy of a school and a student code of conduct. Some of our schools still do not have that. I am a member of a community development non-profit organization in Quezon City, which deals with underprivileged children, and where we constantly hire teachers and social workers. And our international funder has required this child protection policy and student code of conduct. And in fact, our employees, all of them, have to sign a contract where they say that they have read and understood the child protection policy of that community development center. So it's an international standard, and I think we should take this seriously and adopt it as well. Now, Child Protection Committee is mandated as well. It drafts the code of conduct, and normally the Child Protection Committee intervenes in all cases involving bullying, refers the incident to counseling and other interventions. And the Child Protection Committee normally undertakes the investigations involving bullying. No? Of course, the sanctions against the bully has to be commensurate also to the acts of bullying. No? Now, the aside from the effects of online violence against children, children have also to be made aware of the dangers of the new technology, the use of Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and the like. No? I'm sure you've heard of this case involving Vivaros versus St. Teresas College in Cebu, which is a good case for all of us to know, because the court, Supreme Court, took time to educate the schools on what they have to do also to protect their students from activities using various platforms. No? You will recall that this case involved two graduating seniors from this school in Cebu, who, before graduation, took digital pictures of themselves clad in their undergarments. These pictures were uploaded by one of their friends. No? And days after the incident, the computer teacher in the school learned from her students about the picture, and these students logged into their respective Facebook accounts and showed these and other pictures. The students were seen around the streets of Cebu, dressed scantily, and were drinking liquor and smoking. These violated the handbook of the school concerned. After an administrative investigation, the school, as a sanction, told the two students that they would not be allowed to march in the graduation ceremony. Because of that, the parents of the two girls filed a case for habeas data. No? That is a procedural that's a special civil action where the party presenting the case questions the deprivation of their privacy, among others. No? They filed an action for a writ of habeas data, and the lower court denied their complaint, their petition. No? And so on a question of law, this went up to the Supreme Court. No? Supreme Court said that the school was wrong in invoking argument that habeas data could only be invoked against those who provided data. No? And the school was not in that business. No? The Supreme Court said, no, you are wrong. No? Habeas data may be invoked even by private individuals, no? Against anyone, including schools. No? But in this case, on the substantive issues, so as the screen shows, no, the remedies against the violation of such right can include the updating, rectification, suppression, or destruction of the database or information or files in possession or in control of the respondents. The court, as I said that habeas data was designed to safeguard individual freedom from abuse in the information age. No? And as you look at the paragraph after, such individual or entity need not be in the business of collecting or storing data. No? Now, the court, however, in resolving the substantive issues of this case, said, and that is, you can see it in letter A, setting a post's or profile details privacy to friends is no assurance that this profile means Facebook profile, no? Is no assurance that it can no longer be viewed by another who is not Facebook friends with the source of the content. The user's own Facebook friend can share said content or tag his or her own Facebook friend thereto, regardless of whether the user tagged by the latter is Facebook friends or not with the former. Also, when the post is shared or when a person is tagged, the respective Facebook friends of the person who shared the post or who was tagged can view the post, the private setting of which was set at friends. Assuming the photos in issue were visible only to the sanctioned students, Facebook friends, the school could not be taken to task for the perceived privacy invasion, since it was the friends of the minors who showed the pictures to the school authority. The school authorities were merely the recipients of what were posted. Now, online social network users should be aware of the risks that they engage, that when they expose themselves to whenever they engage in cyberspace activities. They should be cautious enough to control their privacy and to exercise sound discretion regarding how much information about themselves they're willing to give up. Internet consumers ought to be aware that by entering or uploading any kind of data or information online, they are automatically and inevitably making it permanently available online. The perpetuation of which is outside the ambit of their control. More importantly, information otherwise private, voluntarily surrendered by them, can be opened, read, or copies by third parties who may or may not be allowed access to such. The court went on to say that equity serves the vigilant, and demanding relief from courts, as here, requires that claimants themselves take the utmost care in a right which they allege to have been violated. The court went on to suggest that schools include digital literacy and good cyber citizenship as part of their school programs. I believe that it behooves upon the schools now to do just that, to have a digital literacy and good cyber citizenship policy as part of child protection. So that we have to educate also our children on the proper use of digital technology, including various platforms. The next group that needs protection under the new normal is the group on women. There is the Republic Act 9710, which is the Magna Carta for women, where there is specific sections on violence against women. We don't need to go over the text of the law, but your attention should be called again on that violence includes psychological harm, just like violence on children. Discrimination, on the other hand, refers to any gender-based distinction, exclusion, restriction, which has the effect or purpose of impairing or nullifying the recognition, enjoyment, or exercise by women, irrespective of their marital status, on a basis of equality of men and women, of human rights and fundamental freedoms in the political, economic, social, cultural, civil, or any other field. Now, Section 13 of that law talks again about discrimination in education. I think all of you are familiar with that. There is that Section C, which reads, expulsion and non-readmission of women faculty due to pregnancy outside of marriage shall be outlawed. No school shall turn out or refuse admission to a female student solely on account of her having contracted pregnancy outside or marriage during her term in school. Now, my law office defended St. Scholastica's West Grove School in a case involving Leus versus St. Scholastica. This involved a faculty member who got pregnant out of wedlock. This teacher was single. Her boyfriend was also single. There was no impediment for them to marry. But despite the pleas of the school administrators for them to get married, they said, no, we don't want to get married. So, long and short of it, the school, after conducting due process, terminated the female employee, teacher. The male was not employed in the school. The school prevailed all the way from the labor arbiter to the NLRC Commission to the Court of Appeals. But when the case reached the Supreme Court reversed. And the Supreme Court said that her conduct is not violative of any public and secular norm of morality. The Supreme Court stressed that premarital relations between two consenting adults who have no impediment to marry each other and consequently conceiving a child out of wedlock, gauged from a purely public and secular view of morality, does not amount to an immoral or disgraceful conduct under Section 94E of the Manual of Regulations for Private Schools. So, cases of moral conduct, and our manuals, most of our manuals carry that provision. In fact, the labor code lists it as one of the grounds, no, for termination under serious misconduct. No? It doesn't list it as a ground, but it considers it as a ground. No? But you have to view it now. You have to view every conduct on the basis of public and secular morality, not necessarily Catholic morality. Now, we have clients who have amended their manuals to include the definition of morality under the Catechism of Catholic faith. Now, we don't know, as there is no jurisprudence yet, whether that definition will hold up against what the courts would view as norms of public and secular morality. That we have to wait and see. Anyway, the third group that we have to protect, no, are women and other members of the LGBT and members of the LGBT community. We have to protect them as they invoke their safe spaces. No? The Safe Spaces Act, we can go back, is an act defining gender-based sexual harassment in streets, public places, online, workplaces, and educational or training institutions. And it provides protective measures and prescribes penalty therefore. That is the title of the law. You can see that again, we have to protect. This covers, or this extends the coverage of sexual harassment to include sexual harassment in public places, sexual harassment which is done online, and sexual harassment that is done in educational or training institutions. Now, if you look at the definition of gender identity, and or expression, this refers to the personal sense of identity as characterized, among others, by manner of clothing, inclinations, and behavior in relation to masculine or feminine conventions. The law says that a person may have a male or female identity with psychological characteristics of the opposite sex, in which case this person is considered transgender. So the law protects those who may have a identity different from their biological sex. And to a certain extent, law says we have to protect them against public places, sexual harassment, etc. Now, the law has described what are gender-based streets and public spaces sexual harassment. It includes catcalling, wolf whistling, unwanted invitations, misogynistic, transphobic, homophobic, and sexist slurs, like what our president says every so often, persistent uninvited comments or gestures on a person's appearance, relentless requests for personal details, statement of sexual comments or suggestions, public masturbation or flashing of private parts, groping, or any advances, whether verbal or physical, that is unwanted and has threatened one's sense of personal space and physical safety, and committed in public spaces such as, and then the law defines what these public places are. Note that includes churches, schools, among others. The law covers cursing, wolf whistling, catcalling, even leering and intrusive gazing. I don't know how you prove that. It's there. Taunting, cursing, unwanted invitations, misogynistic, transphobic, slurs, etc. And the law covers the use of, again, of information and communications technology in terrorizing and intimidating victims through physical, psychological, and emotional threats. Now, in the original sexual harassment law of 1995, sexual harassment was committed by a superior against a subordinate. Gender-based sexual harassment, however, under this new law, may be committed between peers and may be committed by even a student against a teacher or a trainee, or to a trainer by a trainee. So that is an addition to this concept of sexual harassment. Now, Article 5 of the law is devoted precisely to sexual harassment in educational and training institutions. And all educational institutions are to have a committee on decorum and investigation. They call it a CODI, which shall address all gender-based sexual harassment in accordance with the rules and procedures contained in their CODI manual. So again, like a child protection policy, there has to be a manual that, or your school manual should contain rules and procedures on gender-based sexual harassment. There has to be a committee on decorum and investigation who will handle all complaints. And there should be a policy against gender-based sexual harassment that again has to be disseminated to all the actors in the school, faculty, non-faculty, students, even parents and guests. As you would see, Section 22, as I mentioned, the law provides the duties of school heads, which are to disseminate or post a copy of the law in a conspicuous place in the school, provide measures to prevent gender-based sexual harassment, and to create an independent internal mechanism of the CODI to investigate and address complaints. And as I mentioned earlier, the school must have a code of conduct or policy which will expressly reiterate the prohibition of gender-based sexual harassment and prescribe the procedures for the internal mechanism created under the law and set administrative penalties. Now, the CODI should have been already included in your different schools because there was a Sexual Harassment Act of 1995 where the CODI was already included, no, as a requirement for schools, no. So we have to include this in our manuals and in the administrative system of the school itself. No? Now, we can discuss this later on in the Q&A if there are questions on the matter, because this is a fairly new law. No, it was passed in 2019, and shortly thereafter we had the pandemic. No, but this covers sexual harassment, gender-based sexual harassment, done again through technological means, no, and through various social network platforms. Now, the fourth group that we might consider as a group that may need protection, at least in the coming year or so, are those who believe that they don't need any vaccine. This is a raging debate not only in the Philippines but internationally. You will note that DOLE Labor Advisory number 18, which was issued in May 18, 2020, provides that the employer shall shoulder the cost of COVID-19 prevention and control measures, such as but not limited to testing, disinfection of facilities, the issue and the purchase of hand sanitizers, personal equipment, etc., personal protective equipment, etc. DOLE Labor Advisory number 3 of series of 2021 provides that covered establishments and employers have to adopt and implement the appropriate vaccination policy in the workplace as part of their occupational safety and health program, consistent with the guidelines issued by the DOH and the IATF. Please note that no cost of vaccination in the workplace shall be charged against or passed on directly or indirectly to the employees. No vaccine, no work policy is prohibited. Now, may the state invoke its police power to make mandatory the COVID-19 vaccine? There are two views to this. One is no, because the right to health is a constitutional right. Employees should be given the right to refuse or not to refuse the vaccine. Also, there is a view that this may violate a person's right to privacy. The second view is that, yes, the state may make this mandatory because the pandemic and the number of deaths we are experiencing is so much that the state can invoke the police power to prevent deaths and allow the economy to recover. In the United States, there is that raging debate on this issue. There have been two cases already that reached recently the US Supreme Court. One involved mandates issued by a university in the state of Indiana. which said that they will only accept students who have been vaccinated, as well as faculty and non-faculty staffers. This case was appealed to a federal court of appeals, which denied the appeal. And it went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said, we are not going to even discuss it. No? There was a New York school that also questioned a mandate to accept only students. There was a New York school that said, we will not accept students who have not been vaccinated, as well as faculty and non-faculty members. Again, this case reached to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said, we are not going, the US Supreme Court said, we are not going to touch this policy of that particular school. So it appears that the Supreme Court of the United States will not entertain cases that would question mandatory vaccine regulations issued by private schools. This position of the US Supreme Court is not surprising, because as early as 1905, in the case of Jacobson versus Massachusetts, the US Supreme Court said that, and I quote, the liberty secured by the Constitution of the United States does not import an absolute right in each person to be at all times and in all circumstances wholly freed from restraint, nor is it an element in such liberty that one person or a minority of persons residing in any community and enjoying the benefits of its local government should have the power to dominate the majority and supported in their action by the authority of the state. The court went on to say that it is within the police power of the state to enact a compulsory vaccination law. This case, in case you want to know, involved the city of Cambridge, Massachusetts. That is where Harvard University is. In 1905, there was a smallpox epidemic, and the city of Cambridge required all citizens, all its inhabitants, to receive the smallpox vaccine. Now, those who had, there were certain religious exceptions, no? But those who did not fall under the exceptions of the ordinance were imposed a fine, a criminal fine, a penal fine. That was the subject of that case. But as I said, the Supreme Court in 1905 said that it is within the police power of the state to enact a compulsory vaccination law. You can extend it to mean that the police power includes the police power of the various states of the United States or various local governments. Now, if a case like this reaches our Supreme Court, chances are the Supreme Court will say it's also a police power measure. No? I think President Duterte has threatened that he may forcibly vaccinate everybody, no? Who doesn't fall under certain exceptions. So that, in a nutshell, are the persons that may need some protection in this new normal online learning scenario of ours. No? There may be other persons or there may be other measures that need to be addressed in this new normal in our education. Perhaps we can discuss this later in our open forum. Thank you for your time, and may you enjoy the rest of the assembly. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Padilla, for all those legal insights. We are now going to have our question and answer portion. If you have any questions for Attorney Padilla, kindly post them in the comment section of our Facebook and YouTube pages. While waiting for your questions, I would once again like to thank our sponsors, Cleves, Phoenix, Tech Factors, Rex, and EduLearn. Okay, so I think we are ready. So at this point, I would like to introduce once again Attorney Sabino Padilla IV.
Afternoon, can I be heard?
Yes, Attorney, we can hear you.
Okay, so good afternoon. I had that recorded talk earlier. This is the first time I've had that. More used to talking live, no? And in the past, this is my second lecture for CEAP. Some of you have seen me in lectures for the Philippine Association of Religious Treasurers. I've been involved with them for maybe more than 15 years now. So in the National Convention, which will be in November, I think the topics there will be on what to expect when the new year comes, the usual regulatory problems involving the BIR, local governments, the Department of Labor. No? But the topic assigned to me now was different. No? So these are problems in the new normal. And the choice of the subjects, the parties that are affected, have been borne by the experiences of our firm during this pandemic. So these are questions that have risen in this new normal. No? Understandably, there have been just very, very few cases in the last since March of last year, no, because of the situation we're in. No, but the regulations that I discussed will serve as authority in determining how we relate or how we confront some issues, no? Particularly issues involving the new tech, different platforms that our children are experts in more than us.
Yes.
So, so it's really it really becomes an art for us, even a science for us, to determine what they're doing, what they're seeing, what they're viewing, who they're speaking with, and how much privacy our children are entitled to. I myself, I'm not an expert, but this is something that will concern us for a long time, especially since we have to also educate our children on how to sift what is real from fake news. No, it is a major problem, and most Filipinos now get their news from Facebook. No? I had the opportunity to interview a political operative here in this presently, because we're now in an election season. That's where the battle is. Facebook, to a certain extent, YouTube. Then you have also Instagram, you have Twitter. One platform that's very popular is TikTok. So that's where the information comes from, or information is received and digested.
Well, hopefully, attorney, we're now on Facebook, so maybe we can reach more people with your talk today.
Yeah. I notice I have some questions already that have popped up in the screen, like who are the members of this child protection committee in our various schools. Now, the regulation issued by Brother Armin way back in 2012, Department Order number 40 series of 2012, provides actually, the members of this child protection committee. I of course don't remember it at heart, but I have here the copy. It says school head as the chairperson, a guidance counselor as vice chairperson, guidance counselor or teacher, representative of the teachers as designated by the faculty club, assuming you have one, representative of the parents as designated by the PTA, representative of the pupils, and representative from the community as designated by the punong barangay, etc. No? Ideally, that committee should be put in our manuals. No?
The members.
More importantly, is that we have a committee, and maybe also, and I guess also the members, no, so that they know who these members are. No, I think in my lecture I mentioned that I was associated with a community development corporation in Quezon City, attending to the needs of indigents. No, they develop educational learning modules which they give to poor children, and this is accompanied by assistance in the form of milk, some noodles, etc. No? It forces them to learn, no? Because if not, we won't give them these things. No? And it's that agency is attached to an international funding agency. But anyway, we were required, no, to have a child protection policy. Every person who works for that is made to sign a statement of commitment, no, where they say that, among other things, they have to confirm that they have not been arrested, charged, convicted of any offense involving child abuse, etc. No, that they have seen the child protection policy of the community, of the Community Development Corporation, and that they agree to it. No, and that in that policy it says, I will do the following and I will not do the following. So it's a very long list. No. So I think that we have to teach ourselves to have that kind of a policy, no? Because it's going to be an international standard. I think it's good for us to imbibe the practice already.
Okay, thank you, attorney. There's one question here on pregnancy out of wedlock. What
Yes.
about if the contract signed by an employee already specifies that pregnancy without the benefit of Catholic marriage can terminate employment?
Yes.
Can that hold?
Yeah, that is an open question, no? Because in the case of Leius versus Saint Scholastica's group, no, which I discussed, no, we did not have that policy, no. Uh, After that decision, there was a discussion among some congregations, and they decided that we should put this in our handbook specifically, no, that uh, um, these forms of partnerships, no, is against the Catholic Church, etc. No, because there was a statement in Leius that seemed to open that avenue for us, no, but it has not been tested, no. Now the court in Leius, in the Leius case, when they talked about the need to apply the secular morality, no, standards of secular morality in situations like this, no, applied the doctrine in an earlier case involving a clerk of court in a court here in Quezon City, no. So the situations it was different, no. It's really a public. There was a incident in a public institution versus here it's a private Catholic school, no. We are supposed to teach our students and even our teachers and non-faculty members, no, Catholic doctrine, no. And so that is an open question, no. I think eventually something like this will happen again involving a Catholic school, and it will go up to the Supreme Court, and maybe they will clarify this Leius doctrine. But until that is clarified, it is an open question. I think there are some Catholic institutions that are stricter than others, no. So maybe in my case, we handle a lot of congregations, maybe 90% of which are very strict on this, no. But I think there are some big universities that really they can live with this, no, situation, no. That's based on what I understand.
Okay, so we have to wait and see. Hopefully we don't have to, so it doesn't happen. Okay. There's a question, attorney, from a faculty from Colegio de Salgado, Corazon de Jesus. Considering that the law covers sexual harassment that occurs online, how is this enforceable if, for example, the one committing it is not using his or her real account or is using a fake account?
Well, it can be enforced if the victim proves that somehow the account was faked by somebody, but that victim will have to do a lot of work. He or she will probably have to file a complaint, no, with the local police and try to get the cybercrime division of the local police authorities to help him or her out, no. But I know it's difficult because it's a fake account. But if later on the person, the perpetrator is found out, then that person can be prosecuted, no, for the violation of this gender-based sexual harassment.
So just as long as you can trace it to the perpetrator,
Yeah,
the account.
it's a matter of proof, of course, no?
Yes.
If you accuse somebody of being the mastermind or the person who leaked this information, then you have to prove it like any other case, no, whether criminal or civil.
Okay, thank you, Attorney. I think many of our schools might be experiencing this already. Or at least there's hope for them. Okay, here's another question, Attorney. What are some disciplinary measures or strategies that are acceptable or legal that a school can employ in either the modular or online mode of delivery to ensure effective delivery of lessons and assessment?
Disciplinary
Measures or strategies that are legal. I think this may be connected to the data privacy, probably, because some of the for example, I realized that some of my students, when I require them to do, like, for example, simply turn on their camera, sometimes they tell me data privacy. I choose not to open it. So there are, I think this is and I think some teachers are experiencing this. So what can we do? What can be what are still legal, like when we require things like these?
Well, if they are not, if they pretend to be present but they're not, then you call them out, no? You were absent. You can consider them absent, and then apply your rules on absenteeism if they have not been present for so many days, and then you just call out, use your you apply your rules, no? Do you call out the parents for a meeting, etc., no? That's it.
But can
Sometimes,
the students call that out on the teacher, like data privacy? Kasi natatakot ang teachers pag ganyang sasabihin ng student.
well, well, they pay for their education, no? They don't do that, assuming they're minors, then we relay this to the parents, no? That's really what we can do. The bigger problem, I think, is cheating online if you have a test. How do you enforce that, no?
Yes, I think that's another.
That for me is a bigger problem, no? I mean, how do you assess the competence of your student if this happens? I know even in college students now, no, they can easily communicate using another platform with their friends or a tutor, and they say, okay, you give me the answers, no? I know that even the big universities here in Manila, there are some rich, spoiled children who make other people attend classes for them. It's a pure intellectual dishonesty, really. But that for me is a problem. But you know, at the end of the day, they lose out too because they're not learning. If you read the World Bank and the NEDA report full, the ones that I discussed earlier, and I had the privilege of listening to the lecture of Secretary Carl Chua 2 days ago. No? He says that this under the online learning, our children only get to learn 37%. I don't know how he got that figure, no? Of what they're really supposed to learn. No? And then if they still slack off or cheat, 30% will probably be 10%. No? It's their loss. No? But how do we enforce that? It's very hard. No? So we have to think of creative ways, no, to try to make them attend our classes, no.
Okay, thank you, attorney. Here regarding modules, there are questions. Many private schools have made modules and learning activity sheets to ensure the delivery of learning materials. Unlike in the public schools where modules and learning materials are provided by the DepEd, what specific guidelines on copyright should be observed so as not to commit copyright infringement?
Well, I'm not a intellectual property lawyer. No, we had one situation before. There was a query where a teacher was asked to prepare a module, no, under guidelines prepared by the school, no, and the teacher did that, no. But then when she prepared the module, she said, "I only share this to people that I like." So she said, in effect, impliedly saying, "I have a copyright, I have a right to what I prepared." No, under the intellectual property code, if if uh, if something is done as part of your obligation, as part of your employment, no, that belongs to institution. No, there would be a different rule if, let's say, you are a music teacher, no, and you're asked to prepare some course in biology. It's entirely different, no. And you can say that that is your intellectual property, no. There are many nuances there, no. Now, if that was just one query that we had to answer, no. But as to whether, I think what you're asking is if the school prepares these modules, no, and borrows, no, from so various sources, no, will they, and then they pass it on to their students, no, as part of the requirement of the school, are they going to be protected? No, I think to a large extent they will be, no.
Okay.
But I think the school authorities have to review the content, no, and perhaps run this through with their council, no, so that see whether there are portions of that module that may violate the intellectual property code, no. But I think on the whole, they will be protected, no.
Does it fall under the one that they say if this is reproduced or used for educational purposes? Diba, attorney, may parang ganon minsan? Or not necessarily?
Yes,
Will
there
that
is.
protect you? Yeah. Will that protect us right away or not necessarily?
That, I think to a large extent it will, no. But you know, as in every subject of law, no, there are nuances, there are exceptions, there are shades of gray that sometimes you'll be surprised. The courts will say, this was not protected, or this is protected, no. That's why it's best to when you have when you create these modules, no, run this through someone who is well versed with the intellectual property laws, no. Perhaps you should have your copy of the intellectual property code and then look at it. Then if there are questions, you ask your counsel, no. That's the best advice I can give, no.
Okay, thank you very much. Here's another question. I think this stems from because many schools are now having difficulties financially. So can the no payment, no exam policy be employed by the school to ensure maintenance of school operations?
I think the current practice is that this is allowed. Now, whether this should be continued in this very abnormal times, that's something that the schools should consider too, no? Especially since a lot of our students and their families are hurting, no? So I think that it can be adopted, no? As to whether it should be is another matter, no?
Okay. Here are I think this is directly connected with one of the things you talked about in your talk, no? Do we have data if cases on cyberbullying in our schools have increased during the pandemic?
I do not personally have data, no, but I know it's a serious concern because, first of all, it's in the World Bank report. Now they have the data. It's in the NEDA report. We've had some clients who asked us to go over their cyberbullying rules. No, many schools have in this school year have come up with anti-cyberbullying policies. They even have very creative posters that they show their students. No, so I think it is a problem, but I myself don't have the data. I'm relying on the World Bank report. No.
Okay, thank you, attorney. Here's another question. I don't know if it's related, but during this new normal in education, online learning has given several difficulties for students, especially on their mental health. What are the legal basis for their demand to have a mental health break included in the school calendar? I think this is a reality for many schools. The students, even teachers, are asking for mental health breaks.
I can imagine, because there, even for teachers, this new normal has been. You'd think that they're just in their homes, but it's really very stressful, no? And it's an international phenomenon. It's not just in the Philippines, no. This is being experienced everywhere, no. In places, other countries, there have been higher rates of suicide, for instance. No, before the pandemic, in some of the schools that I'm involved with, no, we've had already a rise in mental health problems. What more now? No. So I think that it's, as a matter of policy, it may be good to have this mental health break, no? Except that this has to be undertaken with the guidance and the expertise of your guidance people who are psychologists, no? People who are knowledgeable about how long and when should these breaks be, and what during these breaks, what can be done to help our students and teachers. No, maybe you can have an online seminar or relaxation activities. No, maybe yoga, or what. But I mean, these are matters that are really very serious, no? So again, if you ask me personally, I think it's good to have a mental wellness. If you have a wellness break, you should have a mental wellness break. But what should be done in that period should be something that should be decided with the help of experts. No? Kasi you might have a break, you might have a mental wellness break, and then you're not doing anything. It might be even worse. The child is all alone. No
Yeah. No guidance.
online course, no guidance. Just stares at the wall. No? So there has to be, and I know there's a lot of pressure now on our guidance counselors. No, many schools have asked their guidance counselors to try to reach out to their students on a schedule, no? Which is correct.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Here's another question, I think related to the one on the no exam, no payment, no exam. Can the school withhold credentials of students who have standing accounts? And connected to that, can DepEd officials force the school to release credentials?
As far as I know, if I recall, the CHED manual has something on that. I think the school can, no, withhold. No. Now, if a complaint is filed with the CHED or the Department of Education, for that matter, my experience though is that they always side with in matters like this. They side with the student. No? Find a way to side with the student. No, but if we are not allowed to do that, then the school will suffer financially. No. As far as I know,
can force the.
Well, they find a way. No, as far as it's like the labor cases we have sometimes in the NLRC. No, when somehow acts that are clearly misconduct, no, are they lean backwards and say no, it's not such a great offense that you should terminate. No, same with the DepEd. No, give them an opportunity more to settle their accounts. No, but don't withhold their transfer credentials. No, so that they can somehow move on to, let's say, college. No, senior high. No, this is again based on experience. No.
Okay, thank you, attorney. In your talk earlier, you mentioned on the new law on gender-based was that on the safe spaces?
Yes.
What are certain policies that the schools really have to include, like when they revise their manuals? What are certain provisions in the law that we have to include in our manuals?
Well, the most important is to put that committee on decorum and investigation. No? And the manual, I don't have a copy of the law right now beside me, but if you get a copy of the law provides, no, what are these offenses, no, that constitute gender-based sexual harassment. No? Obviously, for purposes of the lecture, I had to cut it, no, because it's quite a there are lots of definitions, and there are lots of there's a table of penalties, no, for various infractions, no. So my suggestion is go over the law, no? And then you can put in their definitions of the various offenses, no. But as I said, the problem with this law is that there are many infractions here that
heretofore were just minor things, but now they're offenses. No, sometimes it's hard to decide. No, are they really offenses? For instance, but how do you judge? There is an offense called leering and intrusive gazing. No, if a young man sees a beautiful girl and he's tongue tied, no, and says wow, and then just looks at her. Depending on how I guess he looks at her, it could be intrusive gazing, no, or it could just be pure infatuation. No? I mean, there are many questions, no. But there are some that are quite clear, like homophobic and sexist slurs. No, that I think has become very common. No, my suggestion is go over the law, and there are many you can just pick up. No, and then have your lawyer look at it. No, and then just fine tune it, and then you're okay.
Okay, thank you so much, Attorney Padilla. I think we were able to get a lot of new insights with the new laws and what to expect and what to do in the new normal. Okay, at this point, we would like to call on Reverend Father Pedrito Aparece to give Attorney Padilla the Certificate of Appreciation.
Thank you, Chris. Good afternoon, Attorney. Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of the CEAP Region 6 Regional Council, it is my honor to present this Certificate of Appreciation to Attorney Sabino B. Padilla IV, and the certificate reads, the certificate of appreciation is awarded to Attorney Sabino B. Padilla IV for imparting his valuable time, insights, and inspirations as resource speaker to the participants and members of the CEAP 6 during the 2021 Virtual Regional Assembly with the theme Presence as Presence, Renewing and Supporting Our Troubled Societies. Given this 14th day of October 2021, signed Reverend Father Jose Gualberto I. Villasis, PhD, Regional Trustee. Thank you very much, Attorney, and congratulations.
Thank you so much also. Hope what I said made some sense.
A big round of applause.
Thank you.
For
Thank you
Attorney
so much.
Sabino.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for that. Thank you, everyone. Now we will jump into our next session. Let me now introduce our next speaker. Our second speaker for this afternoon is Father Karel S. San Juan, SJ, the current CEAP trustee for Region 9. Father Karel graduated class valedictorian with a degree in Bachelor of Science in Mathematics, cum laude, from the Ateneo de Manila University. He earned his master's in development management from the Asian Institute of Management, where he graduated with distinction. His doctorate in leadership studies is from Gonzaga University, Washington in the USA. He also has a bachelor's degree in sacred theology from the Ateneo, where he graduated summa cum laude. Father Karel is a Jesuit priest who pronounced his final vows with Society of Jesus Philippine Province in February 2015. In 2016, he was a delegate to the 36th General Congregation of the Society of Jesus in Rome. He is currently the president of Ateneo de Zamboanga University and chair of the Board of Trustees of the Emmaus Center for Psycho-Spiritual Formation. Aside from his many assignments from the Ateneo, Father Karel is also a consultant in strategic planning, development management, organizational development, and leadership formation of various government and non-government organizations. To give us his insights this afternoon on forming 21st century leaders advocating for clean, honest, accurate, meaningful, and peaceful elections, or CHAMP, let us give another warm virtual welcome to Reverend Father Karel San Juan, S.J.
Good afternoon. I'm speaking from Zamboanga City here in Ateneo de Zamboanga University, and we greet each other Buenas tardes. Buenas tardes a todos. Maayong hapon sa tanan sa ating mga kaibigan sa Region 6 CAP. I thank you for inviting me. In a particular way, I thank the organizers of this very important Regional Assembly of Region 6 of CAP, our friends, Father Jobert Villasis, our friend Monsignor Eli Fuentes, Father Pedrito Aparece, Sister Lucila Nara, Sister Asuncion Evidente. Marami pong salamat sa pag-anyaya para magsalita ngayon sa inyong napaka-importanting assembly. Nung naimbita po ako dito, sabi ko yes kaagad kasi hindi lang kaibigan natin ang mga nasa Region 6, pero dahil mahalaga po yung topic na binigay sa akin, parang something to prepare us, some reflections on our role in the upcoming elections. And we would like to show it now. My presentation. Can we begin the presentation? Okay, the title of my presentation is Forming 21st Century Leaders, Advocating for Clean, Honest, Accurate, Meaningful, and Peaceful Elections, what the Region 6 CAP calls CHAMP. Well, basically, my key points are as follows. Our context is the coming 2022 elections as crucial to our national situation. Our response is the advocacy for that. Clean, honest, accurate, meaningful, peaceful elections. And then our role will be to form leaders and also to be leaders in the 21st century leaders. And I will pick up two important 21st century skills, which are critical thinking and discernment. I'd like to show many slides here that I lifted from social media, particularly Facebook, that show us the context, the overall situation of the country, what we are facing, the context of the elections. No? And here, for example, in the pandemic, many organizations are doing relief operations, and like this one, advertising the number of tons of vegetables that they collected to be distributed to the poor in the pandemic, the poor and the hungry, and how they've reached out to 6,700 families like this. No? In this particular poster, this is done by Tanging Yaman Foundation, the group of Father Manoling Francisco based in Ateneo de Manila University. And then thereafter, many allegations of corruption also. In view of the pandemic, the purchase of PPEs like face masks and face shields, and how, for example, the national government would be accused of certain anomalies of a pharmacy called Pharmaly in the purchase of such PPE. So the environment of crisis in the pandemic, but also some problems like allegations of corruption amidst hunger, amid suffering of our people. I'd like to also show this, that there are ways of responding to the 2022 elections, like the following. No? And this is the point of critical thinking and discernment as well. One is no response to it. Second is advocacy for voters registration. You like pushing for clean and honest elections. Third is advocacy for democracy and civic responsibility. Fourth is advocacy for new politics, good governance. Fifth is the endorsement of programs, platforms, and priorities. No? So if you look at these different options, you may, a group or an individual or a school may choose different ways of participating meaningfully in the 2022 elections. You can move for voters registration, or you can move further by pushing for democracy, like civic responsibility to vote. Or you can even move further by advocating for new politics and against traditional politics. And then you can move again further by endorsing concrete programs, platforms, and priorities. But you can also move further by endorsing candidates and political parties, no? That are consistent with your values and aspirations and principles. Also, you can participate in a campaign for a particular candidate or a particular political party. And then 8 would be to run yourself for election as a candidate. You will notice that those in light yellow would be the non-partisan ways of involvement. But however, the ones in red are the partisan, because you're going to choose a particular party, a candidate, running under a political party, endorsing him or the party, non-partisan and partisan. You can do this as an individual, and you can do this as a school or as a particular office or center within the school. Okay? But what will be the basis for choosing? So there will be a selection process, and the basis for choosing would be your values, your vision, your mission, your goals individually and as a school. Sa school kasi, di ba, nagano tayo na nagkakaroon tayong sharing of values, both individual and then aligning our values to the school's values. And that is an important process, especially when we are discerning which among this are our response to the national situation, the elections. And then this goes through a process of critical thinking and discernment. No? And that is what I'm going to unpack more in a more detailed way in this presentation. How do we go about critical thinking and discernment that will make us choose which among this will be our response to the 2022 elections? No? There. So I have around 4 to 5 points to quickly present to you. No? But first of all, as you notice from this slide, we mentioned advocacy, right? And then even the endorsement can also be considered as advocacy. So let us understand what advocacy means. It is to promote, to push, and to support. Or to go the other way around, to oppose, to counter, to go against. What? An idea, an issue, a cause, a position, a program, a project, a policy, a law, a person. You can promote and advocate for a person, not just a program. Usually, we do this on behalf of someone or a group or for the common good. And we do this in public, usually to gain support and to meet objectives. Like if your objective is for a particular education reform law to be passed, you advocate for it in public on behalf of your school, on behalf of your school association like CAP Region 6 Association. You're supporting a particular program or a particular person who will carry this program in legislation or in Congress. There. So therefore, I'd like to show some posters related to advocacy and context. Like cartoons like this, bakit natin kailangan bumoto ng tama? May korupsyon, walang korupsyon. Pinapakita rito yung konteksto ng corruption and non-corruption in our country. So therefore, kailangan natin talagang bumoto ng tama. Drawn in a very simple way to be understood by all. Or I saw this in the Negros region when the church leaders, the clerics, the priests would mobilize against a particular reclamation project. This is considered to be something that they have to advocate against, no? And so therefore, they mobilize in a group like this, and then consistent with their values of environmental and protection and care for creation. And then when church groups coalesce or gather to launch a movement for righteous elections like CBCP and other private organizations and call it Halalang Marangal 2022. Or when CAP, the Advocacy Commission, which I'm part of, would launch a campaign we call Vote Love. Love being the main principle behind participating meaningfully in the elections. No? This is what we call the CAP 2022 elections engagement. No? And so therefore we launched webinars like this. Perhaps some of you did participate in a webinar like this one, The Meaning and Power of Our Vote. Or 2 weeks ago, there's a group called Education Nation with an education reform agenda with its 10 points, including number 1, electing an education president and government leader sympathetic to the cause of education sector because we are having a learning crisis now. No? So it's good to enumerate your agenda and advocate for this, and then launch activities like signing a petition. Here, there's a virtual signing. We attended a seminar. I signed here virtually online. As an individual, I did not carry my university, but you can carry your university if you're, or your company, your corporation, or your group, your organization. You can carry it if you have gone through a process in the organization of supporting a particular statement or position paper, like surrounding the names of the individuals or groups with their respective organizational logos. No? Or when 2 weeks ago at the same time, a party list was launched, a new one called ESC, Educators in the Service of the Country, Bagong Boses ng Edukasyon, and they're going to run as a party list. And our friend, our lawyer, former lawyer of CAP, Attorney Joseph Era Estrada, submitted himself and made available himself as the number 1 nominee of the party list. And so therefore he was there speaking and presenting the platform of the party. So this is a clear participation in the electoral process. Partisan. No longer non-partisan, but partisan. No? I would like now to present the framework for critical thinking and discernment. No? And these are my main points. Number 1 would be to know, be attentive, maging mulat. Number 2 is to understand, be intelligent, maging mapanuri. Number 3 would be to care, to be involved or makialam. Number 4 would be to believe, to be value-driven or maniwala. And the ones in light yellow would be critical thinking. The ones in red would be discernment. No? And then in the middle, I would end with this, that it will take courage and faith to undertake all this. Yung bang kailangan tumugon, manalig at magmahal acting on this because of love, no? Because of faith, and we need the courage for that. So I'd like to begin with knowing be attentive, maging mulat. No? Be informed, be aware, be sensitive. We need to say this because we have great tendencies to be otherwise, which is what? Inattentiveness. Hindi tayo mulat. So we have to say be attentive because we can be inattentive or unaware. No? How? By direct experience. No? How do we know? No? We experience, let's say, poverty. We experience injustice. We experience corruption. But we can also know them by reading. No? Now, even if we did not experience them, we read about them, we research on them. And so we can also know them through resource persons. We attend a webinar, we attend the talk. We can be influenced by significant others. Sinabi ni Father, sinabi ng aking presidente sa university, sinabi na isang influencer sa social media, naniniwala ako sa kanya, so I will believe, I will know. Both in mass media and social media. We don't have to experience, for example, injustice to know about injustice in the country. Because we can read about them, and our resource persons, our leaders talk about them, and we believe in our leaders. As I said, we have to emphasize this because we can be inattentive, insensitive, uninformed, selective. We can be biased with many fake news lurking around us. We can be wrongly informed, and we can be deceived. Pwede tayong maloko. Maraming naloloko ngayon dahil hindi tayo attentive. No? We have to know our context, both the local, let's say the region 6 context, the national situation, and the global situation. And the question is, what is happening? What is the situation? I will show posters or posts that I lifted from social media. Like 3 weeks ago, this became controversial when Tony Gonzaga was interviewed Bongbong Marcos, and then as if nothing happened during the martial law regime. And so this created an uproar saying, hey, we know things, you cannot just deny history. We know that martial law happened, we cannot deny it. And the Martial Law Museum of Ateneo Manila wrote an open letter to Tony Gonzaga saying, we want to know things, you interview as well the martial law victims, not just someone from the Marcos family. And then when people say martial law misinformation is everywhere, and that scholars and human rights activists want to correct that. And then when we say our forgetfulness is their license, when people, they were the golden years. The martial law years were the golden years, even if a lot of people were killed, the wealth of the nation was stolen, etc. It's a battle of facts now. We are in the middle of that battle. We have to know our local context. Since 2013, we in Zamboanga suffered the Zamboanga siege. It became a humanitarian crisis which displaced 150,000 people. What is happening in your city, in your province, in your region? And then years after, Marawi crisis happened, and this revealed a lot of social problems like the need for interfaith dialogue, the discrimination, historical injustice done to our Muslim brothers and sisters, poverty, clan wars, etc. We have to know what's happening in our local and national, even global context. However, for example, in Mindanao, in the Cotabato and Davao area, a major issue there is the issue of mining and how one mining corporation would pose as a threat, risking people and communities, their livelihood, their water, their river streams, their land. This is an important thing to know if you're from the area of Sarangani, Davao, and South Cotabato. So that's the main point. Be attentive, be informed, be aware, be sensitive, labanan ng inattentiveness, maging mulat. The second point is understanding. understanding is different from knowing. Kasi you can know something, pero hindi mo naman inuunawaan kung ano nangyayari. Yung bang certain analysis. So therefore, we have to also emphasize this. Not just know, but be intelligent. Be critical. Fight your tendencies for lazy thinking. Lahat tayo may ganitong tendency na tinatamad na tayo mag-isip, nakapagod mag-isip, o mag-isip tayo maling pag-iisip. Kaya ang tawag dito, maging mapanuri, mapag-isip, maging matalino. Sabi ng mga psychologists, lahat tayo kaya maging matalino. Ang katalinuan ay hindi lang sa ilang mga tao. Lahat tayo pwede natin gamitin ang ating mga utak, gisingin natin ang mga pag-iisip, at maging mapanuri, mapag-isip. Yan ang tawag dito. Labanan ang katamarang mag-isip. Be intelligent because everyone can be intelligent. No? Progress is impossible without change. And those who cannot change their minds cannot change anything. Sometimes we are called to change our minds, and let's accept that. No? One time you are thinking this way, but because of knowing and understanding, you need to change your mind. No? Let's have the humility to be able to change our minds. Usually, the bandwagon effect. No? We follow the narrative, meaning this is the story that is most popular. But if you analyze the facts, you will leave the bandwagon and be alone and with just a few people when you start analyzing the facts. I hope that we are not afraid to do so. No? That we use our analytical faculties to understand the situation and even risk being unpopular. There are many, like yung mga teachers natin sa inyo, di ba? Alam natin, marami namang tools on critical thinking. Let's use them in the classroom. Let's use them ourselves. Like this, an ultimate cheat list for critical thinking. But I'd like to offer some 3 points for critical thinking that I've learned at the Asian Institute of Management, that I've been practicing in my own profession. The question is, what really is happening? What more can we see? What is our analysis? No? Number one, we can look at what we call magnitude. Look at the scale, the size, the extent, the degree. Ang pagsabing magnitude, yung malaki. Ano yung malaki? What do the numbers tell us? Yung pagiging maliit, pagiging malaki ng isang bagay. Yung lawak, yung impact, no? Magnitude. I saw this last week in social media as well, showing the numbers of in terms of voting population. It says here that Class D constitute 48.2 million, 78%. So the way Class D will think and vote will determine perhaps the outcome of the elections. No? Class A, B, C is just 3.7. Class E is 9.8 million. Numbers are very important. 8 out of 10 are for Class D according to this research. Magnitude. Again, I saw this, the voters profile, 51% are female, almost split. So I don't think that is significant. No? Almost split ang male and female out of 61.8 million voters. But we can also look further by saying that Cebu is the most vote-rich province. In terms of region, it's Calabarzon. In terms of senior citizens, 9 million daw ang senior citizens. No? So, Mindanao, 23%. Luzon is 56%. So, pinakamarami ang Luzon. Visayas, where you are, 21% only. In terms of age, 1/3, around 30% would be age 18 to 29, the youth, 1/3. That's huge. So you've been hearing about the youth's meaningful role in this coming elections. That's why we're mobilizing the youth to register in the next few weeks left, that the COMELEC said as that the deadline for registration. This is glaring data in terms of magnitude. Ranking of countries in the world in terms of Nikkei Corporation, Japanese corporation, COVID-19 Recovery Index, meaning how able is a country to recover and be resilient to COVID. Yung kaya ng mag-manage ng pandemic. Number 1 is Malta, number 2 Chile, etc. Where's the Philippines? Nasa huli po tayo. Number 121. Pinakamababa. Di ba? Nakakahabag. But these are the numbers that speak. And it shows that our pandemic in the country is being mismanaged. No, that is how we use critical thinking here, because the numbers are here, done by an external group like Nikkei Corporation. Wala namang political affiliation to corporation na to, di ba? Yan. And then more data about the Marcos regime in terms of number of people tortured, victims, how many yung funds, etc. Yan, numbers. And then magnitude in terms of, because of those numbers, the Marcos family landed in the Guinness Book of World Records because the dictator was called the world's greatest thief. How can you question that historical fact in terms of magnitude? And the same Guinness Book of World Records calling it the greatest robbery of a government. Sometimes we forget, oftentimes we forget, or we are deceived. So magnitude, important. No? How much of the ill-gotten wealth were recovered? No? And then another data in terms of budget of the current administration for representation and entertainment, 7 billion was allocated. You look at this 7 billion allocation, and we in the private education sector, we've been lobbying government to give us more ESC funds for TSS and ESC for our students, TSS for our teachers, and TES for our college students. Kinakat na nga yung funds natin, tapos makita tayo ng ganitong glaring number for budget for something else. No? In the development sector, UNICEF, international NGO, would often say this. This is their context. 1 in 5 children report experiencing sexual violence. That's why UNICEF is always here to help support our poor children, our communities, because of such facts, such magnitude. The second point is urgency. Aside from magnitude, urgency, meaning yung urgency of the situation demanding immediate attention and action. No? Like at the time when there was a lot of EJK, no? Extrajudicial killings, because of the drug war of the current administration, yung dumadaming numbers of children being killed, not just adults, but children. When children na ang napapatay, di ba urgent yun sa atin? It assaults our senses. No? And we hear that there's a quota for killing. Kian de los Santos, his last words were, tama na po, may test pa ako bukas. Urgency. No? Feeding the hungry in this pandemic is urgency. Whenever, for example, our regions, our cities are put on ECQ and MECQ, then people cannot go to their respective jobs. Maraming tao, no jobs, no work, no pay. That means hunger. And who will attend to the hungry population? That's why we are mobilizing community pantries, relief operations to feed the hungry. Urgency. In September 21, we ranked 8 in number of COVID-19 cases. A month later, we became the worst place to be in COVID, according to an international news organization, Bloomberg. Di ba urgency din yan? Yun ang number 3. Number 2. Number 3, aside from magnitude, urgency is importance. Here we talk about long-term strategic impact. Yung bang importance also means ano ang halaga niya sa pangmatagalan. No? So here, environment is one such issue. No? For the environmentalists among you, and I know many of our teachers and administrators and students are environmentalists, you know about global warming and how it is a function of global carbon dioxide emissions. Measuring the temperature of the Earth. No? According to graphs like this, in 2100, kung umabot na tayo ng 5 degrees centigrade, very high ang carbon dioxide emission, that means that is catastrophic to the globe. Look at how the world will look like. The red, that means the Earth is getting hotter and hotter at 4 degrees centigrade. So important yan. So we need to manage the global temperature by cutting on global fossil fuels, yung carbon dioxide emission. This is very technical, very scientific, but the environmentalists can explain this further to us. No? Global warming. Again, back to UNICEF, they said that even if the USA has left Afghanistan, they will remain because this is a long-term concern, supporting women and children, and they won't stop. Strategic importance. Another, I think, long-term strategic importance is the Philippine educational system. We're in a learning crisis. We have heard of the international test wherein we fared dismally, poorly. No? We are in a learning crisis. That's why CEAP as an association has been mobilizing for this. No? We're pushing government for education reform so that this crisis in terms of curriculum, in terms of teacher support, etc., in terms of subsidy for education should be addressed because this is a long-term strategic issue. We are in a crisis. Number 4, and I end with this in terms of being critical, we can look at connections, no? From personal to structural and systemic perspective. Again, environmentally, this is the connection of global warming to our way of life. Like when we are told to minimize our use of vehicles because they consume fuel, and that contributes to global warming. When certain corporations need to cut down on emissions of carbon dioxide, no? That contributes to it. No? So a picture like this connects us to nature, to the environment, and to industry as well. Because everything is simply connected. When we locate our actions to other systems, we go through this systemic perspective. That is important in critical thinking. Yung ginagawa natin, may repercussions yan sa lahat ng bagay sa mundo. Kaya nga may drawing na tulad na ganito, nandito tayo sa gitna, individual, may impact sa family, sa school, may impact din sa politics. That's why we say the personal is political. We cannot avoid politics. Even Pope Francis says and exhorts us to not be afraid to participate in politics. That is a way of loving. Because by participating in or engaging politics, we promote our values, our Christian Catholic values. We promote care for the common good. We promote social justice. No? So we cannot avoid politics. As simple as that. Imagine if your mayor is not sympathetic to your values or go against your values. For example, your mayor tolerates drug addiction. Di ba, may impact yan sa ating eskwela dahil mga kabataan natin will be prone to drug addiction. So we need to choose a mayor with a clean track record of fighting drug abuse. Di ba? Yung making that connection is very important in critical thinking. So that, number 2, be intelligent, be critical, maging mapanuri, maging matalino, maging mapag-isip. My third point is caring. No? If you look at this, you may know, you may understand, but you may choose not to care. No? Isipan natin yon. May analysis ka na nangyayari, pero sila na lang bahala dyan. Dito na lang ako sa bahay ko. Hindi na ako makikialam. I don't care. Magne-Netflix na lang ako gabi-gabi. Yun, ganun ba? Tatakasan natin ang responsibilidad. So, be caring, and it's fighting against apathy and passivity. Magtaya at makialam. Be involved. And this is what I'm saying. You may have the tools, but without caring, no advocacy can happen. Why? Because we need some emotional connection with what is happening. Hindi lang mind, pero heart. No? Kung walang heart, walang pagkilos. That's the reality. Mapipilitan ka lang. O kaya, puro utak, mapipilitan at mapapagod ka, mauubos ka, maburnout ka. Kung hindi ibababa sa puso, hindi sustainable ang ating action. And then emotional responses like being disturbed, being uncomfortable, being worried about the situation, being afraid, being anxious, being angry about what's happening, feeling compassion, feeling pity for the poor, for example, feeling hopeful, and feeling encouraging about the situation. So the range of feelings and emotions are important in responding to the situation. No? A man sees in the world what he carries in his heart. What is in our heart affects what we see. Kung ano nasa puso natin, yan ang mapapansin natin sa labas. Kung wala yan sa puso mo, hindi mo mapapansin. Kung wala sa puso mo ang gutom ng mahihirap, pag makita mo ang mahihirap na mamali mo sa kalye, hindi mo sila papansinin. Kapag sa Metro Manila, di ko alam sa Iloilo at sa mga cities natin sa Region 6, no? Kapag may lockdown, walang trabaho ang mga jeepney drivers, mamamali mo sila, mga jeepney drivers na mamali mo sa kalye kasi wala na silang pambili ng pagkain. No? Kung wala tayong heart for the poor, we will ignore even pathetic images like that. No? How much do we really care is our question now. In terms of our relationship with others, with society, with your God, with the world. How much do we really care? That's my basic question. Huh? You will change the world just by being a warm, kind-hearted human being. I've heard of this several times. That one of the basic global calls now is just to be kind, to be kind-hearted. If you are kind-hearted, many things will happen. Look at this photo. In 2020, at the start of the pandemic, many of our kababayans from Metro Manila are wanting to go home to Iloilo, to Capiz, to Aklan, to Mindanao, to Zamboanga, para makapili ang kanilang mahal sa buhay. Kaya lang stuck sila, walang transportation, walang eroplano, walang vapor. They were stuck in stadiums like this, nagkakahawahan sa COVID. What stirs in your heart when you see people, when you see photos like this? Awa ba o walang pakialam? How much do you care for other people, especially the poor? And then in that was 2020. In 2021, ano naman ang nakakaawang tignan? Yung mga healthcare workers natin are frontliners in the hospitals and isolation centers. Right? Pagod na nga sa kanilang trabaho sa hospital, lalabas pa para mag-rally at tawagin ng gobyerno, nabigyan sila ng mga allowances, meal allowances, transportation allowances, accommodation allowances that they need, that are budgeted, but were not distributed to them. No? Hazard pays. No? Does this stir your emotion? Does this make you care? Ang ethic of care kasi is something like this. You can just care for yourself or egocentric, or you can care for a few others or a significant other or a social group. Let's say, I care for my school. I care for my city. I care for my clan. Pero pag labas na yan sa circle mo, wala ka ng care. Or world-centric, when you say human rights or the important value of life and peace, or justice, which are global world-centric values, would you care much? Or you wouldn't care anymore kasi it doesn't affect your significant groups. No? Yung mga killings, well, wala namang killing sa pamilya ko at saka sa city ko, I wouldn't care na lang. Pero killings violate human rights. That is a world-centric value. will you care as much? No? So that is the point, no? In terms of number 3, be involved, be caring, fight against apathy and passivity. There. My 4th point is something fundamental, which is talks about believing, values. I think that what will determine our knowing, understanding, and caring would be your values. Believing about certain things, your values, maging maniwala sa bagay na yan. No? Be value-driven versus superficiality, magnilay, magkilatis. Ano ibig ko sabihin dito? Kasi pwede rin tayong maging mababaw sa mga bagay-bagay. No? Yung tatawag ng superficiality na hindi na natin questionin yung ating values. No? Our work is in the schools, and our schools are value-driven, especially Christian Catholic schools are value-based. Our schools have value statements or vision, mission, goal, value statements. Are we aware of those values? Are we aware of the implications of those values in terms of what is happening in the world today? Or we choose not to. No? Nandiyan ang values, naka-frame, pero hindi ko na masyadong pinapansin yan. Ang buhay ko ngayon, mas superficial. No? Deeper questions, why would you even try to know? Why choose to know? What is most important to you, to your organization, to people that matter to you? When we ask the questions why, we ask the questions about values. No? We're familiar in our psychology classes, this Maslow's hierarchy of needs. This I present this because this shows us our different levels of value. Pwede ang value mo sa physical, yung your physical safety, food, rest, exercise, security, shelter, stability, or I think many of us have values of being loved, belonging to a group, being cared for, or some ego values, meaning self-esteem, power, recognition, prestige, achievement. No? We value achievement. And then we value actualization or creativity, yung fulfillment of our careers as teachers, as staff, as administrators. So self-actualization. This determines our value. In the latter life of Abraham Maslow, he says that the highest value is actually not self-actualization, but self-transcendence, meaning lagpasan ko aking sarili para maibigay aking sarili sa iba. How? Through service. Maglingkod sa kapwa is a self-transcendent value. Nasaan tayo rito in terms of values? Our needs here reflect our value preferences. Another pyramid would be a German philosopher, Max Scheler. He has a hierarchy of values. Parang magkahawig, no? Utility values at the bottom, sensual values, the pleasant versus the painful, virtue values, the noble values versus the base values, wisdom values, right versus wrong, beauty versus ugly, truth versus falsehood, and then transcendent values, the holy versus the unholy, sacred versus the profane. Maganda tong framework na to because pinapakita rito na merong tayong choice sa values. In fact, we cannot assume that our values are really good values. Pwede mo sabihin, magkaiba kami ng taong yan. Bakit? Kasi ako naniniwala ako sa katotohanan, siya ang paniniwala niya, ang value niya, kamalian, falsehood. Diba? Nagkakaiba ang tao rito. Ang value ko ay kabanalan, pero siya wala ang kabanalan sa kanyang buhay. Unholy. So may choice tayo actually, no? And this makes us reflect. Ano ba value choices natin ngayon? No? To be good or to be bad? To be selfish or to be selfless? To be self-centered or to be caring of others? So, value choices. This is another useful framework in terms of how value preferences can swing according to ego tendencies. Look at number 4, charismatic and manipulative. Dito may range of ano, no? It can be charismatic, which is good, a good value. But if you are not careful, your being charismatic can lead you to something bad. You can manipulate people. Wow, ang galing kong charismatic leader ako. I'm able to have a lot of followers. But that can also be a danger because you can manipulate and deceive your followers and be bad. No? That's why may mga cults that lead people to harm themselves. No? What can start as good can end as bad. Number 18, for example, you can be self-confident. That is a good value. But too much self-confidence can make you a proud person and can make you self-absorbed. Diba? And self-absorption can lead you to what? Manipulation, arrogance, and pride. Number 23, courage is important, is a value, but courageous used to an extreme can make you reckless naman, right? Number 26, being smart and intelligent is a value, but being smart can, if you're not careful, can make you dismissive of others, judging others as not smart and as not intelligent, and you can be know-it-all. So, number 8, directive can lead you to become dictatorial. So, this thing about values and preferences and beliefs is something complex, but something to really be reflected upon. No? Again, layers of values, your personal values. Another layer, next layer will be values of your community, your institution. I mentioned here your profession, your religious organization for our priests and sisters. May values ang ating congregations. May values ang ating school. At ang nangyayari sa school natin, nagkakaroon tayong convergence of values between personal and institutional. May value ang iyong bansa, ang iyong culture. What is the Ilonggo value, for example? May value, for example, ang ating faith tradition. We're Catholics, working in a Catholic school. So therefore, we live out cardinal virtues: prudence, justice, fortitude, temperance, theological virtues, faith, hope, and love. Kapag may faith tradition tayo, pag meron tayong religion, meron na tayong values to live out. But the important thing is, of course, the universal values are there, is the challenge of convergence, consistency, integrity. It can happen that you're an individual working in a church or working in a school, but you are not living out the values of your school and your church. You're not living out the values of humanity, which are universal values. So therefore, values is an important thing. We need to strive for what? Consistency, convergence, and integrity. That's why, Pilipino ako, total ako sa mga pagpatay. Maka-Diyos ako. Hindi ako dilaw, hindi ako pula, Pilipino ako at mahal ko ang Pilipinas. Pope Francis says, the world tells us to seek success, power, and money, but God's values are different. God tells us to seek humility, service, and love. It's a battle of values, the world and our church, the world and our schools. How much are we committed to our values? If you become and we are all leaders here, no, in this webinar, in this regional assembly, what are your values as a leader? Are you a leader who lives out the servant leadership values of our faith? Or you are a leader who are simply so centered on your power. You're a leader who wants power. And so therefore you are not empowering others. You're not following Pope Francis' call to use power not just for not really for yourself, but for service. Power for service. The measure of a man is what he does with power. We have infographics like this about presidential candidates. And when we read the infographics like this, let's be discerning about the values that they carry, and not be deceived. The value of truth ba? When a candidate says, I have this degrees in international universities, tama ba yun o mali? Ibig sabihin, the value is not for truth but for falsehood. The value is not humility but pride or deception. No? And then, so therefore, candidates like this, when people question about the performance of candidates, we're seeking the value of truth and integrity and generate the data that support for such. For when Lenny Robredo was questioned, then the supporters of Lenny Robredo immediately came out with facts that show that there's truth in what she is saying. So yung mga ganitong mga posters in the national elections. I talked about the different ways of understanding values. All this converge in what is already available to us. No? Marami nagkakaiba ang mga bansa, pero ang mga bansa ng mundo ay nagkakasundo sa Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Diba? Mahirap magkasundo ang mga bansa, no? Because of cultures, etc., differences in religions and cultures. But all these countries united to form the United Nations to adhere to certain universal global principles like the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Do we educate ourselves on this? Do we live this out? Do we fight for these values? That's the question. When we see killings, when we see the poor being oppressed, human dignity being disrespected, women being disrespected, for example, when we see discrimination and biases against religions, these are clear violations of human rights and freedoms. Are we able to respond to such with care and with promoting values? Like self-care and interiority, sharing and service, solidarity and social justice, stewardship, and spirituality. These are global values that we need to promote and live out more consistently. According to this poster, when political views result in the suffering of another human being, they are no longer political views, they become moral choices. I'm not even talking about morality yet. What is good and what is bad, what is right and what is wrong. No? The political is the moral. When we promote the moral, it becomes the political. No? So that's the fourth point. Be discerning, be value-driven, fight against our tendency na maging mababaw, ayaw na nating maging malalim, or what we call superficiality. Magnilay, magkilatis. Reflect often. So I've presented 4 points. The first two are critical thinking skills. The last two are discernment capacities. Discernment capacities. What our leaders need today, especially in the context of the national situation, and in particular the context of the national 2022 elections. We need to go through fundamental things like this to be able to make choices as far as our responses are concerned. The last point is this. Mukhang mahirap tong gawin, like 1 to 4, no? Kaya I would like to end with the last point of courage and faith. And the call, the fundamental Christian call to love and to respond. To be courageous, to be committed, to fight against fear and weakness, to respond, tumugon sa hamon at manalig. Hindi naman natin kayang gawing lahat yon kung wala namang tayong faith that gives us courage and that gives us strength to fight our fears and our limitations and our weaknesses, and to make us committed Catholic Christians, committed teachers, administrators, students, and personnel. How far will you care? How deep will you think? How critical will you be? What are we ready to advocate? How far will we go in advocacy? These are important questions. What are we up against anyway? Pwede natin sabihin, Father, nakapagod naman yan, ang hirap gawin, gano'n, no? Pero my question in response would be this: what if we do not advocate? What if we do not go through those 4 points? What are we up against? What are the threats? What? The lure and pervasiveness of apathy, passivity, and superficiality. Do we want our schools, our students to be, our teachers to be this? Walang pakialam, passive, superficial, mababaw. The impact of competition, the battle for the hearts and minds of our people in mass and social media. The church is engaged in this battle. The gospel values are engaged in this battle. Otherwise, someone else will win. And that someone else, those groups, may round counter against our values, our gospel values. We are inevitably competing. We cannot avoid such competition happening in our midst, quietly often, influencing our children, our grandchildren, in social media, in YouTube, in TikTok, in Instagram, in Facebook, in Twitter. That's why even the Pope and Vatican are calling us Christians to enter social media and to learn how to use it as a means for evangelization. And so therefore, we avoid the abuse of those in power and their tendencies to manipulate us and to deceive us, because we are vulnerable and we are unresponsive. We're not acting, we're not discerning, we're not knowing, we're not understanding, we're not thinking critically. Ang mangyayari, may gagawa na iba in our place. And is that the world that we want to build? So we need individual discernment of teachers. Our principles, our values, our non-negotiables. What do you stand for? What matters most to you? What aspects of yourself need to change? Everyone needs to change. The advocacy can happen in our curriculum, in our conversation with our students, through your very person, your presence. No? The theme of this conference is presence as presence. Our very person is influential enough to stand for these values, to advocate for these values. We are called to communal discernment in our schools. Our school leaders are called to advocate advocacy, to reflect on our values, vision, and mission, to facilitate values clarification sessions, to have formation sessions on perhaps what I'm sharing here can be part of formation sessions. And then leadership is so important. No? Leaders and administrators need to show the way. We are going to be models of knowing, understanding, care. When the leader doesn't show care, then the followers will follow that. Apathy and passivity. If the leader doesn't show critical thinking and is readily deceived by fake news and disinformation, your followers, your people will simply probably just do the same if they're not critical enough. And then community building is of course important, as we do in our schools. So therefore, if we try this process, there's hope for a better world, I think. No? Leaders become catalysts, change agents, persons of integrity, inspiring persons with presence and power. It is curious that physical courage should be so common in the world and moral courage so rare. The call for moral courage. Never be afraid to raise your voice for honesty and truth and compassion against injustice, lying, and greed. So we have to counter our fears, no? Because such courage are the forces that will change the world. Our Pope says, a leader who doesn't love cannot govern. At best, they can discipline, they cannot give a little bit of order, but they cannot govern. You cannot govern without loving the people and without humility. So our Pope has always been emphasizing that, calling leaders in the church, in the world, to love. And love becomes part of governance, no? And leadership. Politics is a noble activity. We should revalue it, practice it with vocation and dedication. That requires testimony, martyrdom, that is to die for the common good. Ang Pope natin, sinasabi sa atin, huwag tayong matakot sa politika, bahagi yan ng buhay natin, bahagi yan ng bokasyon ng ating pagiging Kristiyano. It is for the common good. Love is civic and political, and it makes itself felt in every action that seeks to build a better world. How do we extend our loving beyond ourselves, our families, our friends, extend it in the world, in your city, in your barangay, in your region? Exude that loving, and that means engaging in what is happening in your world. And that makes love civic and inevitably political. Our Cardinal Chito Tagle, and showing the love and mercy of God, part of our vocation as Christian Catholics. Education does not change the world. Education changes people, and people change the world. Ultimately, our vocation as educators is about change. That's why CEAP has always emphasized educational transformation, education's role in social transformation, our civic duty and responsibility to change our world, to change our country, to change our society, to change even our personal ways, our individual selves. And I would like to end with that. Ultimately, the challenge is to conquest or to change our very selves and to be the change that we hope for in the world. So in this presentation, I said that the challenge of critical thinking and discernment for leaders in the 21st century, responding to the national situation, particularly in the 2022 elections, we need to know, to understand, to care, and to believe, and to fight tendencies otherwise. No? And to grow in critical thinking, to grow and deepen in discernment, and the need for courage and faith, to be loving, tumugon, manalig, magmahal. And so therefore, make discernments in terms of concrete responses in terms of the 2022 elections, are different options, both partisan and non-partisan, to be discerned individually, to be discerned in the school, by particular offices and centers, base it on values, vision, mission, and goals, go through critical thinking and discernment. That's all. Thank you very much for your patience in listening to my long presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Father Karel, for enlightening us to become critical thinkers. We are now going to have our question and answer portion. If you have any questions for Father Karel, kindly post them in the comment section of our Facebook and YouTube pages. Once again, while waiting for your questions, I'd like to thank our sponsors, Cleves, Phoenix Sibs, Tech Factors, Rex, and EduLearn. Please take note that we will be posting the link to the evaluation of the assembly tomorrow. After you submit the evaluation, you will receive your certificates of participation. Okay, I think we are ready now. I'd like to introduce once again Reverend Father Karel San Juan, S.J. Good afternoon, Father.
Yes, good afternoon again. Yeah.
Okay, we already have like a couple of questions here. The first question is, the Catholic Church is always accused of meddling in politics despite of a non-endorsement principle being followed. Do you think that the Catholic Church should the Catholic Church endorse a candidate?
First, the first point about being accused in meddling in politics, I think that may be true in some cases, but not true always. No, in some localities, the Catholic Church is inactive. No, it's not at all engaging politics. But in some places, in some cities, or in some situations, it engages politics or political issues. That's what I mean. No? So we cannot completely say or accurately say that the Catholic Church is always meddling in politics, because that is not true. Sometimes in some situations, we want the Catholic Church to be more involved in political and social issues. Having said that, what's the next question again?
Should the Catholic Church endorse?
Huh? The Catholic Church, my very complex response to that is it depends. No? That's why I presented a rather complex framework of critical thinking and discernment, such as critical thinking, no? And discernment. We look at the situation and then see what is happening in our localities and what is happening in our country. No? Ideally, the Catholic Church should be non-partisan. Non-partisan. The Catholic Church should respond to, it is a church of all people, of different parties. So the different parties with their respective political platforms should be comfortable to come to the church. If you become partisan, you close yourself off from a group of people. Yeah. So I said, ideally, we should not be partisan, if you look at my framework a while ago. But, again, it depends on the situation. In 1986, under the dictatorship, and the Catholic Church through the CBCP made a statement that showed that it can no longer support the current administration because of what it has done to the people. What did that mean? That meant almost like a partisan response, not support this government and would support another, possibly new government. So that is an example of a very nuanced, very deep, complex, and discerned response to the situation. I think the important thing is openness, critical thinking, discernment, and prayer. Fundamental to discernment is prayer. Fundamental to discernment is everyone talking and listening to each other. No? And that is what is happening in organizations or groups like the CBCP. Our bishops dialoguing with each other, our priests, our clergy, our sisters, our administrators, our schools like CEAP, Region 6 Assembly. This is a way of dialoguing, listening, and conversing with each other. And then making an appropriate decision that is discerned, prayed for, critically thought of. That is my answer to the very complex question.
Okay, I think here's a follow-up question, I think similar to what was just asked. The Holy Father says that a good Catholic meddles in politics, offering the best of himself. How far can we go in politics when our present political system and even many of our politicians do not even care for church morality and gospel values, and everything is only understood in the context of legality? I think that was
That's the point, no? In my presentation, I was trying to provide a picture of what's happening in our country and how certain values are not being lived out, or how certain values are violated. Even gospel values are violated. No? What was contained in the question that was asked. No? So that's why even our Pope would say medal. No? Kasi yung word na medal parang hindi parang we use it, medal, or sa Tagalog doon siguro makialam. Siguro a gentler word would be involved, participate in politics, be engaged in politics. Don't be afraid of politics. Why? Because politics, the social political realm, is an arena where values are lived out. So if you see gospel values like care or care for the poor not being lived out in your political structure, let's say in your local government, a Christian Catholic response should be to raise the issue against it. For example, when the poor is being killed, when the poor are not being attended to, that goes against our values of the gospel. And as Catholic Christian leaders, will you just be quiet about it? Or will you raise the concern to your leaders that and call them out that is wrong, that what you did is wrong? We need to care for the poor. We need to care for truth. And I think that is what the Pope meant when he challenges us to be more involved, care more. If we be more involved and care more, we need to, sometimes it's inevitable to enter politics, engage politics.
Here's a not really follow-up question, but I guess this is common to most teachers. Father, may I ask how far can we advocate, especially in terms of campaigning for our candidate of choice among our students, that we don't sound oppressive?
Yeah, I think that is an important question. And I expected that question to be asked, actually. My answer to that is it depends on your school. It depends on your school and your school administrators to dialogue, to reflect on this possible scenario. When, for example, some teachers or individuals would like to campaign for particular candidates. If you remember my framework, that is one partisan option of involvement. You choose a candidate and a political party to campaign for, right? You can do it individually, but you may not do it as part of the school. Meaning, you're a teacher, you campaign for the candidate in the classroom. That is something to be discussed with the administrators. Would the administrators allow that? saying, o sige, pwede nyo gawin yan. Pero pwede sabihin ng administrator, ni father or ni sister or whoever's heading the school. But please be clear that when you campaign for that candidate in the classroom, you're doing it as yourself, not as the school, because the school is non-partisan, if such is the case. See? That's why in my diagram, dapat distinguish yung role, yung response ng individual at response ng school. The school says, we will not be partisan in this election, but our people are free to choose and even to campaign for particular candidates and parties. But they will do it as their own and not to carry the name of the school with them. That is challenging, but that needs to be done, and that can be done. As a last point, I know a school in Mindanao, wherein the school, of course, at this point in time, retains its choice to be non-partisan. So ang response ng school, advocacy for new politics, for ganyan, for programs, priorities, and hanggang doon lang. Hindi siya magiging partisan. Yun ang school. No? However, the one school administrator chose to be part of the campaign of one presidential candidate in the city. And then that administrator talked to the president, and they had a good dialogue. The president allowed him, but again, the president cautioned him by saying, please do that on your own time. Don't campaign using the time and the resources of the school. In other words, don't print campaign materials in your office. Don't hold meetings in your office. Do it on your own. And be careful, please, that your position may not be interpreted as the position of the university. So we can have guidelines like that.
Okay, thank you. Here is a question I think that's kind of related. What are your thoughts on the time after Lenny Robredo filed her COC with the color pink? Some bishops of the Catholic Church posted in social media their pink, is that a chasubles, even their skull cap. In as much as they are church leaders, can this be considered as an endorsement?
I failed to see that photo. Did that really happen?
It's part of a question I can't do right now.
Yes, it did.
Monsi Ellie, nangyari ba talaga yan, Monsi?
Yeah.
Okay. Ilang bishops gumawa ng Monsi?
2 bishops.
Tatlo? In the same region or?
2 bishops, different regions.
Okay. So, that's good to know. Well,
several priests.
Several priests and sisters, etc.
Yeah, displaying their chasubles.
Yeah. I think they're free to do so because they've discerned and decided on that action based on their conscience. We also teach in Catholic Christian morality the primacy of conscience. No? In ethics classes, we educate our students about conscience. We educate our students to listen to their conscience, to make their conscience informed. That's why, di ba sinasabi ko sa talk ko, dapat may knowing and understanding. Inform your conscience. Because the conscience will be the one discerning. No? Pero kailangan malinaw yung values, yung information, and your analysis. And then you make a decision based on your conscience. Those bishops and priests who wore pink decided based on their conscience. And part of our Catholic life is to respect sooner or later, once other presidential candidates or local candidates promote their respective colors, I would expect other bishops and priests and sisters wearing colors other than pink. And again, the same response, respect their conscience and decision.
Okay, Father, this is a follow-up question. Other associations and organizations are endorsing candidates. Should the CEAP also either endorse a candidate or these are two questions actually that I put together. So either endorse a candidate or candidates or campaign against candidates that may compromise the common good of the country. So as an organization.
Like as an organization like CEAP, that's a question.
CEAP, like
Yeah.
CEAP.
Like as I mentioned, at this point, CEAP as a national association and with regional associations like this assembly, CEAP Region 6, we do not have any endorsements yet at this point. But what I'm saying is that we don't know if such will be the case a month from now or next year as we near the May 2022 elections. Ako, ang preference ko is to be open. But that's me. Other might say non-partisan all throughout. Me, I would say, and it may be a daring way to say, be open to any possibility because it depends on the situation. But for now, this is where we are. Non-partisan, non-endorsement of candidates. So we remain vigilant, we remain critical, we remain discerning and prayerful. We remain listening to our consciences individually and as a group, as organization. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I think there's one last question here. I'm not connected with any of the other questions. Do you think has Catholic education failed when many of our politicians are graduates of Catholic schools?
Do you think we have failed? Again, please.
Yeah, do you has Catholic education failed when many of our politicians are graduates of Catholic schools?
Yeah. Siguro what the question meant was, did Catholic education fail whenever we see politicians who are Catholics doing bad? Because
Yes.
there may be politicians who are Catholics who are doing well
Yes.
and doing good. No? When our politicians do badly and they happen to be products of Catholic schools and Catholic education. I think that's the question. No? Yeah.
Yes, Father, I think so.
Perhaps we can call it failure, but perhaps we can think of it this way. Our Catholic schools can only do so much in terms of formation and transformation. That's why in our Catholic universities and schools, we emphasize best effort in terms of teaching, in terms of research, in terms of outreach, in terms of our vocation of our mission of education. We do our best. No? But as the song goes, if our best is not enough, no, we can only do so much. I came from the Ateneo system. No? I graduated from college in Ateneo and now I'm running an Ateneo in Mindanao, Zamboanga. We have produced, the Ateneo universities have produced both exemplary, virtuous, good politicians and equally bad, corrupt politicians. And siguro, rather than blaming, we can probably shift the question to say, what do we need to do more in terms of the current students we have? So that there will be less of such graduates that we produce who will live out politics. And it may not be politics, it can be any field of endeavor, who will be graduating from our schools, but will be living out our Catholic Christian, gospel, and school values with integrity and consistency. Yan. Yun na muna siguro.
Thank you, Father. I think that's a very good reminder to all of our listeners, no, who are all from Catholic schools. I'll read a couple of comments lang, Father, no. So somebody said thank you very much for this very challenging talk. And there's another comment. Thank you, Father, for reminding us about values, care, and compassion. We are aware of the realities in our country, yet we continue to be witnesses of hope, since some of our students sometimes express that there is too much corruption in our country. So why would they still vote when our political leaders repeat the same mistakes? Okay, I think at least the talk now we can say that really did give us hope, no, of what to look forward to in the coming elections, and to think and vote critically. Okay, thank you so much, Father. At this point, I would like to call on Father Pedrito Aparece, our Secretary of the Regional Council, to present Father Karel with the Certificate of Appreciation.
Good afternoon once again, everyone. On behalf of the CEAP 6 Regional Council, I am pleased to present the Certificate of Appreciation to our second speaker for this afternoon's session. And the certificate reads, this Certificate of Appreciation is awarded to Reverend Father Karel S. San Juan S.J. Ph.D. for imparting the valuable time, insights, and inspirations as resource speaker to the participants and members of the CEAP 6 during the 2021 Virtual Regional Assembly with the theme, Presence as Presence, Renewing and Supporting Our Troubled Societies. Given this 14th day of October 2021, signed, Reverend Father Jose Gualberto I. Villates, PhD, Regional Trustee. Thank you very much, Father Karel, for your time.
Thank you very much, po, and you're most welcome. I wish you all the best in the assembly, and God bless you. Salamat, Gid. Dagang salamat.
Round of applause for our speaker. Pwede na kayo magbigay ng hearts.
Thank you, Father Karel.
Thank you, Monsi Eli, my friends Monsi Eli, Father Jobert. Thank you.
Thank you, Father Karel.
Welcome po.
Salamat.
Thank you, Father Pertz and Father Karel. This is the last part of the first day of our 2021 CEAP 6 Virtual Regional Assembly. To lead us in our closing prayer, let us welcome Sister Arimar Grantos, RA, a member of the CEAP 6 Regional Council.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Gracious and loving God, as we come to the close of the first day of our CEAP 6 Regional Assembly, we praise and thank you for the grace and opportunity you have granted us to spend this virtual gathering in a meaningful and fruitful way. We thank you for your guidance and for enabling us to accomplish the program we had set for today. You blessed us today with inspiring resource speakers who shared with us their time, expertise, and life experience. We ask you to bless them as they continue their ministry of evangelization in their respective spheres of influence. We thank you for the gift of families who have truly become the locus of formation in their homes in this time of pandemic. We thank you for keeping our young people, especially our students, safe in their engagement with the social media as a platform of online learning in this new normal. We entrust to you our country, our electorate, the COMELEC, and those who are running for public office this coming May 2022 national elections. May you guide each one of us to vote and advocate for a clean, honest, accurate, meaningful, and peaceful election. May you continue to bless all the participants who joined this day's webinar. Let the work you have begun in us come to fruition in our lives and in our educational communities. And let it all be for your greater glory. Grant all this through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Thank you for attending the first day of our regional assembly. We have more in store for you tomorrow with a talk on resourcefulness amidst scarcity and our business meeting with messages from our CEAP President, Sister Marisa Viri, CEAP Executive Director, Mr. Alan Arellano, Father Jobert Villasis, our Regional Trustee, and a report from Sister Lucille Nara, our Treasurer. We will also have the awarding of plaques of recognition to our jubilarians. See you all again tomorrow at 7:30 a.m. at the CEAP Facebook and YouTube pages. God bless and stay safe, everyone.
Welcome to Tech Factors, an e-learning company focused on making classroom experiences fun and fruitful by integrating technology in the lessons. We take pride in being the leading and preferred e-learning provider in the country, with a mission to develop world-class graduates equipped with 21st century skills. As to date, we have served hundreds of schools and thousands of students nationwide. Tech Factors offers different courseware for grade school and high school students. English Tech and Filipino Tech for language arts, Math Tech for math education, AP Tech for social studies, Science Tech for science education, DG Titans, and Tech High for ICT education, Mundi Tech for music, arts, physical education, and health, and Life Tech for home economics and livelihood education. We also offer a number of titles for our senior high series. And all of these can be accessed by teachers and students through TechTeach LMS, our very own learning management system. TechTeach LMS is a distance learning platform that uses technology to conduct classes. It provides seamless classroom experience and allows smooth navigation through an improved interface. With TechTeach, students can access their lessons, including video lectures, interactives, and exams that their teachers may assign. TechTeach adapts to your learning needs and styles. Since digital natives are more inclined into audio and visual content, we converted some of the lessons into video lectures that you can pause, play, and rewind at your own pace. This facilitates better knowledge retention. Furthermore, you can have fun while learning through the interactive exercises. With the latest innovation from Tech Factors, Tech Teach can now be accessed using mobile devices such as cell phones and tablets. Not only that, in Tech Teach LMS version 2, students can now download content such as lessons, video lectures, and quizzes for offline use. Tech Factors Incorporated aims to develop students to become lifelong learners using fun and innovative ways. Enroll now, and together, let's make learning a great experience.
Through the years, we have been your partner in innovative teaching and effective learning. Our teaching and learning resources and the professional development programs for teachers and school leaders that we provide speak of the Alaga that you deserve as our collaborative partners. Now, more than ever, we commit to Alagang Phoenix CEAPs, the cornerstone of our mission in education. We vow to guide and support you in navigating uncertain paths in education today by providing holistic solutions that support instructional resiliency. With our MELC-compliant print and digital resources and tools, we help you future-proof quality instruction. These resources include high-quality textbooks designed for meaningful home-based learning. These are replete with learning activities that form self-directed learners and authentic learning tasks that allow learners to meaningfully connect them to real-world contexts. The My Distance Learning Buddy series is a modular textbook series for the 21st century learner in the new normal. MELC compliant, this learning package consists of 6 subjects. Complementing and supplementing these printed materials are various resources that enrich learning, curated in the Phoenix Blended Resources portal. Moreover, the World Book eBooks is a digital library that serves various instructional purposes. For technology-powered learning, Phoenix Aralinks is your holistic edtech solution, responding to the new realities in education. It is more than a learning management system. Run by the biggest edtech team in the country, it is a comprehensive program that focuses on pedagogy, not on tools and devices. Moreover, the Aralinks ProTrack automates school operations and systems and bridges communication between the school, students, and parents. Helping schools make sound and informed decisions to improve student learning, GRACE offers various quality standards-based assessments using modern approaches in the test development process and scientific methodologies. GRACE commits to advancing the standards in research and assessment. At Phoenix CEAPs, we arm you with holistic and meaningful resources for innovative teaching and effective distance learning. At Phoenix CEAPs, we help you get ready for the next in Philippine education.
Technology is now a vital part of everyday life. Schools are faced with the key challenge of keeping pace with all these developments. They must undergo digital transformation and digitize their workflows and processes to deliver better value to their stakeholders. We are Edgeline Technologies, and we deliver smart solutions. We can help you manage your school's digital transformation through our products and services. Each component of the Edgeline ecosystem is designed to digitize your school's processes. Our ICT and robotics learning programs integrate technology education with the K-12 curriculum. Through these programs, students develop computational thinking skills and become responsible creators and users of technology. The Savvy Learning Management System enables e-learning for your school. Connect with students and teach subjects remotely as we all adjust to the new normal of learning. Our EVE school management system digitizes various administrative workloads including admission, enrollment, scheduling, and financials. The EduCast messaging system connects schools to parents, keeping them updated with important announcements and reminders concerning their children's education. SIMS delivers smart ID and attendance monitoring that tracks student mobility to and from your facilities, broadcast announcements through digital displays and signages. Our BUY Building and Infrastructure Service provides you with the essential equipment, networks, and infrastructure to boost your capabilities. We are committed to designing sensible and sustainable solutions that empower your school. So, are you ready for your digital transformation? Edgeline.
With Cleves Publishing Incorporated, we assure you as our partners to be there throughout the journey. We are with you in every step of the way. Technology is continuously evolving, and Cleves is riding with it. From print to digital, Cleves got you covered with the products that we offer. Spearheading Cleves products are the Clevelets, an e-learning portal for teachers only, and the Leveraging Education, Augmenting the Future, or LEAF, for student-teacher access. For teachers, administrators, and school owners, we have the Cleves Shares. It is perfect for you in maneuvering fast-paced demands of the education field as we collaborate in creating a balanced amalgam of theories, pedagogies, and practices inside and outside of the realm of the learning environments. Reimagine, reinforce, recognize, to make quality education through a variety of lectures, trainings, and webinars in aid of instruction, classroom management, and institution management. These offerings are perfect responses. In connection to Cleves Shares, to provide service beyond sales, Cleves also has the Cleves Cares for its partner mission schools in providing them with capacity building focused branding or rebranding the institution inside and out. It also practices reimagining various school scenarios and responses to the needs of the time, reinforcing school climate and culture through different webinars conducted among institution partners and in recognizing the value of each stakeholder in the success of value-laden instruction delivery. Another product of Cleves is the Cleves Assist. This offering features a 24/7 hotline for technical assistance in the use and maintenance of the Clevelets and LEAF. Almost everyone in the academe can benefit from this, from the teachers, admins, and school owners to the students and parents. Cleves Assists aims to provide an assistance response team to address immediate technical concerns while ensuring the users the full utilization of the Clevelets and LEAF. It also offers visits with partners to address offline concerns when needed. We ensure quality service delivered through this hotline assistance to our partners, always. And lastly, Cleves Thinks. Together with the partners, we provide them with external consultations for present and future research agenda, accreditation certification, and imaging one. Cleves thinks that with a client in full swing, it is redirecting the winds within their institutions. Cleves Thinks is for teachers, administrators, school owners, students, parents, and even extended service communities and collaborative partner agencies. Through innovative designs, proactive responses, and reconfigured goals, established institutions are on the verge of the fourth going to the fifth industrial revolution. Strong definitive vision is what's needed in remaining relevant and competent in this world. And this is what Cleves is all about.
Taon-taon, tuwing dumarating ang pasukan, Ang palaging tanong ng nakararami ay, handa ba tayo?
Kakulangan ng silid-aralan sa ilang eskwelahan, sinalubong ng mga estudyante sa unang araw ng pasukan.
Sapat ba ang ating mga pangangailangan para mas makapagbahagi ng kaalaman sa bawat kabataan? Ngunit taon-taon din, sa kabila man ng mga hamon na dumarating, sama-sama natin itong tinutugunan sa abot ng ating kakayanan. Hanggang sa
hati ang opinyon ng nakararami sa pagpapatupad ng distance learning dahil sa mga problema gaya ng mabagal na internet connection at kakulangan ng gadget na maaaring gamitin sa pag-aaral.
Naging usap-usapan yung pag-delay muna ng pasukan hanggang sa susunod na taon kung kailan mas handa ang mga bata, mga magulang, teacher at mga paaralan. Marami man ang tutol sa pagbabalik eskwela, may mga solusyon at paraan na maaari nating gamitin para ituloy ang pagpapalawak ng kaalaman. Sa panahong nailagay sa panganib ang pagpapakalat ng karunungan sa mga kabataan, atin pa ding ginagampanan ang ating pangako para patuloy na itaas ang antas ng ating edukasyon sa panahon man ng pandemya. Ika nga, learning should never stop. Anumang pagsubok, kaya nating lagpasan basta sama-sama.
Nagtatanong, natutuwa, lumalawak ng mundo niya. Masdan mo siya, namamangha, marami nang nagagawa.
Ramdam ko kung gaano kalaki ang effort ng mga guro para lang maibahagi ang nalalaman nila sa mga bata. Doble ang hirap nila sa paghahanda.
Mas nakikita ko ngayon yung paikisa ng mga magulang, yung involvement nila, para maitawid namin ang kaalaman para sa mga bata. Mas tumibay ang partnership namin to make home study work.
Malaking bagay sa akin itong barangay handbook. Mas lalo kong naiintindihan ang pangangailangan ng aking mga nasasakupan. Lalo na ngayon nasa gitna tayo ng isang malawakang krisis. Nakakatulong din ito sa kung paano na ang peace and order sa bawat lugar ng aming barangay. Sinisiguro din namin na mabahagi sa bawat barangay tanod at mga volunteer health workers ang aming mga natutunan sa pamamagitan ng mga seminars at counseling.
Since sa ibang bansa nagtatrabaho si Mama at Papa, sinisigurado ko na nasusubaybayan ko ang kapatid ko sa kanyang online classes. Ginagawan ko ng paraan para maturuan siya sa kanyang mga lessons at mga assignment. Mahirap sa umpisa, but I need to step up para sa kinabukasan niya.
Noong panahong nangyari ang pandemya, nahinto ang mga negosyo, nagsipakulong ang mga tao, tumigil ang ating mundo. Kaalaman lamang ang muling magpapabalik nito. Karunungan para muling maibalik ang buhay ng tao.
Sa aming ika-70 taon, handog namin ay pasasalamat sa lahat ng mga naging kasapi sa misyong maging gabay ng bawat batang Pilipino tungo sa kanilang mga mithiin. Mula sa bawat individual na bahagi ng REX na patuloy tumutugon sa kanilang tungkulin sa kabila ng pandemya, hanggang sa inyong mga tagapagtaguyod ng edukasyon na patuloy na pagsuporta. Tayong lahat sama-sama.
Hawak kamay, ang pag-asa, gagabayan kita dahil para sa bata, aking pagsisikap. Para sa bata, aking hangad at pag-asa. Pangarap ko'y kung anong pangarap niya. Buong puso ko, buong puso ko, buong puso ko. Para sa bawat bata. Para sa bata, para sa bata.
We are happy to invite you to the 2021 CEAP Congress with the theme Presence as Presence, embracing our evangelizing mission by inspiring, witnessing, and sanctifying. Join us as we reflect on the impact of Catholic schools as agents of social transformation. We will be led in this reflection by no other than the Apostolic Vicar of Hulo, Bishop Charlie Inson, OMI, DD, who has also been part of CEAP's 8-year history as a regional trustee.
Our theme is in line with the celebration of the 500 years of the coming of Christianity in the Philippines, and the year 2021 is the year of Missio ad Gentes. We also want to celebrate our 80th year as the country's biggest association of Catholic schools, providing and advancing the teaching function of the Catholic Church.
We want to offer our presence in the world to the world by being present and making the world feel that we are here, nurturing life, assisting in the progress of the world and of humanity. Here in our country, the presence of the Church has been sought to guide, to lead, to enlighten. In giving of ourselves, we embrace our evangelizing mission by sincerely inspiring, witnessing, and sanctifying.
We have prepared several learning sessions using the Philippine Catholic School Standards as our framework. The issues and concerns that these learning sessions will deal with are based on the different domains on school operations and our various advocacies.
And since we are preparing for the 2022 local and national elections, this Congress will also serve as a venue for our member schools to share their best practices in engaging the youth towards greater civic involvement at the local and national levels.
At the Congress, we will also honor posthumously two very significant persons in the field of Catholic education. Constitutionalist Father Joaquin Bernas, S.J., and musician Sister Anunciata Santa Ana, SPC, by conferring on them the Pro Deo et Patria Award, the highest award given by CEAP.
We will also tell you about how our association has journeyed together according to the themes and in the spirit of communion, solidarity, support, and sharing with one another during these times of the pandemic and disruptions brought about by COVID-19 and its variants by activating the programs called Kapatirang Kamagong and by implementing other projects that are responsive truly to the plight and needs of the less fortunate and most needful in our region.
To mark our 80th year, we will be launching the Philippine Catholic School Standards for Higher Education, a follow-up document to the Philippine Catholic School Standards for Basic Education that the CEAP launched in 2016 during our 75th year anniversary.
So mark your calendars, November 8 to 12, 2021. Register now for the 2021 CEAP Congress.
See you!
See you, everyone!
See you at the Congress!
November 8 to 12. See you there!
See you in November!
Well